It is Friday, March 8th, and we are here at the Goggin Ice Center here in Oxford, Ohio. As it is the start of the game between the Western Michigan Broncos and your Miami RedHawks. I am your pre-game intermission post-game host, Aiden Sones here, representing Red Hawk Radio. And let's first start talking about last night's game. That was an 8-3 loss last night. But here is Miami's side of things. With Miami, it was a great first and third period. It was only the second period in which blunders did occur. In the first and third period, they actually outscored their competitors, the Broncos, 2-1. On the other hand, the second period was pretty atrocious. That was 7 goals by the Broncos. Recapping Miami's goals. First goal, Ambrosio outskid through all the defenders to have a one-on-one against Hampton Sukinski. And backhands it for a goal. That tied the game 1-1. Max Dukovac, I called him out earlier before the game as a player to watch. He had a breakaway with a 2-on-1 with Johnny Waldron and scored in the upper left-hand corner. And finally, Raymond Ventalen scored the final power play goal, which was due to a Connor Hutchinson face-off, passing it to Trapani, and then deked out to the defenders to pass to Ventalens. Another note from yesterday, Bruno Bruvares, our goalie, got the first assist in his entire college career due to Dukovac's goal. Some hope coming into this game. Miami was 1 for 2 on the power play. That's compared to 0 for 2 for Western Michigan on the power play. Now for Western Michigan, again, this was an 8-3 game. So how did all 8 of Western Michigan's goals occur? First goal, it was a turnover in the Miami zone, led to Grant Sukinski grabbing the puck, passing it to Shingathi, scoring backhanded. That was the only goal for Western Michigan in the first period. But 31 seconds in the second period, Alex Bump scored. That was due to an Owen Michaels tip puck along the boards that Matteo Castellani picked up. Then he passed to Alex Bump, who deked the defenders for the goal. Arguably, Alex Bump, drafted by the Philadelphia Flyers in the 2022 NHL draft, is arguably their best player on the team. Also, in the first minute of the second period, Grant Sukinski had the puck behind the net. Zach Nearing was right in front of the net, and a one-tire solidified their 3-1 lead. Zach Sharp scored from the far face-off circle for their fourth goal. That was due to a tic-tac-toe play from Bump to Drasner to Sharp, right into the back of the net. One common theme I noticed from last game, the Broncos seemed to crash the net, and for this fifth goal, it was the same case. Grant Sukinski, he rebounded a shot, passed to Kreuzberg Rosen, and deflecting it off of Nearing for the fifth Broncos goal. Another crash net instance as Iro Hakurainen shot got rebounded by Tristan Lemire, passing it to Washi near the post for a goal. And finally, the last 2 goals were very similar. Right after the face-off, Cam Kunabol passes to Ty Hendricks, who 18 seconds later scores again. Finally, right after the face-off, Tim Washi passes to Jonan Vistanainen for a quick face-off goal. We'll be back right after this, following a short break. welcome back to the first intermission game report, or should I say rather, the first break from the pregame report as your Miami RedHawks are facing the Western Michigan Broncos. Now, it is senior night for the RedHawks, and to honor the seniors, here are the players to watch for the RedHawks in today's game. Spencer Cox, the right defenseman, number 2, 5'11", 175-pound senior from Dublin, Ohio. This season, in 19 games played, he has 1 goal, 3 assists for 4 points. Yesterday, he played as the extra defenseman, meaning he's the most versatile out of all the defensemen. And today, it is released that he is also the extra defenseman for today's game as well. Last year, he scored 1 goal and 7 assists in 30 games played. He had a 3-game point streak to start the year, and he blocked 24 shots compared to 22 this year. He was also named NCHC Academic All-Conference Team, and he's also participated in the New Jersey Devils development camp over the summer. Prior to Miami, but staying in the college level, he played 2 seasons for LIU, in which he had 8 goals and 25 assists for 33 points in 68 games played. While with LIU, he had 126 block shots. He was also named LIU Rookie of the Year and had 7 goals, 13 assists for 20 points. With LIU, over the summer he participated in the Nashville Predators development camp as well. Next up, Raymond Ventolins, right winger, today playing on the third line with Casper Nassen and John Emmons, the 2 freshmen. This season, he has 4 goals with 10 assists for 14 points. Last year, he had 6 goals and 11 assists, which ranked 4th for the RedHawks in both categories. And he was also named NCHC Academic All-Conference Team and Distinguished Scholar Athlete. Again, prior to Miami, but sticking with college, he played 2 seasons for the University of Vermont. He had 12 points, being 3 goals and 9 assists in 43 games played. And prior to Miami, he played for the World Juniors as the assistant captain on Lafia's World Juniors team in 2022. He was voted the top 3 player on Lafia's 2022 World Juniors team. Matt Chapani, right wing, playing on the second line today with Johnny Waldron and Max Dukovac, number 9, 5'10", 187 pounds, senior from Montreal, Quebec. This season, he scored 5 goals, 10 assists for 15 points in 33 games played. Prior to Miami, sticking in college, he had 102 games, 19 goals, 22 assists for 41 points for Northeastern. He earned the Huskies Team Award for Most Improved Player in 2023. And prior to Miami, in the UCHL, he had 74 points, 37 goals during 2 seasons for UCHL's Des Moines Buccaneers. This is where he was named second rookie all-star team in the USHL. And finally, Connor Hutchinson, left defenseman on the same line as Michael Quinn today. Number 74, 5'10", 184-pound senior from Long Island, New York. This season in 32 games, he has 2 goals and 7 assists for a total of 9 points. Prior to Miami in college, he spent the last 3 seasons at Sacred Heart University in Connecticut. 73 games played for 34 points. He was also the Atlantic Hockey All-Academic Team for 3 straight seasons. He began 2020 to 2021 season with the University of Vermont, but only played for 6 games, and then he joined the Tri-City Storm. Again, the Tri-City Storm, famously known as Coach Noreen's team. There he had 14 points in 33 games played. So that does it for the players to watch for Miami. Let's talk about the games going on as well as this one. There's already one game already in the book. Merrimack at number 1, Boston College. Boston College blows Merrimack out of the water 6-0. And there's also a game currently going on. Air Force against Sacred Heart. Again, that being Connor Hutchinson's old team. Sacred Heart winning 2-1. Now, these rest of these games are going to go on around the time Miami starts their games, so it's time to cover those games that are going to be coming up soon. At 7 o'clock Eastern, Canisius versus Bentley. Also at 7 o'clock Eastern, St. Lawrence at Dartmouth. In their last D1 series, American International is at Holy Cross. At 7 o'clock, number 5 Maine is at number 16 Massachusetts, as well as number 15 Penn State is at number 11 Michigan. Number 17 UMass Lowell is at New Hampshire, as well as Army West Point at Niagara. The final 4 games happening at 7 o'clock tonight. We have number 6 Providence at Northeastern, Wisconsin at number 9 Ohio State, and a NCHC game. We have the Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs at St. Cloud State. And finally, the number 10 Boston University at Vermont. At 7:07, Bemidji State is at Augustana. Also at 7:07, Michigan Tech at Bowling Green. Lake Superior State is at number 14 Minnesota State. The Omaha Mavericks are against the number 18 North Dakota. And finally at 7:07, Bear State is at the St. Thomas. At 7:30, Yale is at Cornell. And then another NCHC game, battle for Colorado. Number 7, Denver against number 20, Colorado College. Finally, at 8 o'clock, Notre Dame, the Fighting Irish, are at number 3, Minnesota. That wraps up the second segment to the pregame show. We'll be right back right after this. Coming back from our final break of the pregame segment, let's go over the keys of the game before our game against the Western Michigan Broncos at the Goggin Ice Center in Oxford, Ohio. For the keys of the game for the RedHawks, in my opinion, we got to play it safe. We got to have a consistent pace. I know in the first and third period of last night's game, we seemed like a really good team against this Western Michigan Broncos team, again ranked number 4 in the nation. But that second period is what sold it for us. So we need to have the consistent pace. We don't give up the most goals in the second period. We're just going to win the face-offs and limit opposing puck possession. As Western Michigan, believe it or not, is a really good team, and we got to limit their amount of puck possession and the amount of potential goals that they might score. Also, for the seniors and grad students out there, you have to go all out. This is your last ever game, especially at the Goggin Ice Center. So might as well make your first win be your last one. Finally, for the Western Michigan Broncos, they need to maintain as much puck possession as possible. As opposed to Miami trying to maintain as much puck possession, Western Michigan is a really fast team and can skate around Miami's defenders. So just holding on to the puck will tire out the RedHawks enough to skate past them and score a goal. And finally, they also have to rely on their amazing goaltending. Again, their two goaltenders, Hampton Slukinski and Cameron Rowe, have the best goals against average in the entire league. So capitalizing on those players can really help your offensive production as well. That wraps up the final pregame report for this season. I will be back for intermission and the postgame report. For now, my name is Aiden Sones from RedHawk Radio signing off. Let's have a great game and go RedHawks!
From Cady Arena in Oxford for one final time this season, we welcome you to Miami RedHawks Hockey here on Red Hawk Radio as the RedHawks close out the regular season tonight against their old rivals from way back in the CCHA days, Western Michigan, in town as the number 4 team in the land, Penrose Cup champions for the first time in program history as regular season champions of the NCHC, trying to complete the sweep and head into a first-round matchup with St. Cloud State at Lawson Ice Arena next week on a high note as the Broncos look to complete the season sweep of the RedHawks following a dominant win last night. Alongside Jeff Middleton, Luke West-Poley with you. And Jeff, identical score last night to what we saw in the Friday game of the initial series between these two teams, but for the RedHawks, it was that second period, just a few 3-minute spurts in which the RedHawks really took their foot off the gas. They won the first and third periods, as Greg Waddell and Drew Davis were saying on the flagship radio call across the ice, but we have seen small moments tend to snowball for this team all season long, and that was the case last night.
Yep, and head coach Anthony Noreen has talked about it countless times throughout this season that you can't take a night off, you can't take a period off against any of these NCHC teams, and especially the number 4 team in the country, Western Michigan. They don't have as many draft picks as Denver or North Dakota, but they play a system, they play it well, and they're able to score on the chances that you give them, and we saw that last night. 7 goals in that second period. It just can't happen against a team like Western Michigan, especially a team like them that have this goaltending that they do. Cameron Rowe and tonight Hampton Slukinsky once again in net for Western Michigan. So you need to take advantage of the chances you get and not allow guys like Alex Bump, Matteo Costantini, Owen Michaels, this first line, who took advantage of their opportunities last night to get the puck in high danger areas.
Western Michigan team under Pat Ferschweiler that sits top 10 in what seems like every category statistically in the entire country, and a showcase of their depth last night. 8 goals from 7 different scorers for a Broncos team that sits averaging on the season just under 4 goals per game, which is good enough for second in the nation. Starting goaltenders here this evening for Western Michigan. They will go with the backup. Cameron Rowe gets the night off, and it will be Hampton Slukinsky, the freshman out of War Road, Minnesota, product of the Fargo Force in the USHL, and a draft choice of the Los Angeles Kings, making his 17th appearance. Very strong freshman campaign for him, 204 goals against average and a .922 save percentage with a 10-5-1 record. For Miami, it is Brett Miller making his 5th start here on senior night. 0-4 record, 3.76 goals against average and an .874 save percentage for the RPI grad transfer from Northville, Michigan. We'll toss things off to public address for our national anthem and step aside. Puck drop coming up next between Miami and Western Michigan here on Red Hawk Radio. All set to go here tonight between Miami and Western Michigan. They got the whole marching band in attendance performing the national anthem here tonight. Our officials this evening, Stan Zurek and Andy Thackaberry are the referees. Eric Frank and Brian Gorkoff are the linesmen here this evening. For Western Michigan, they will wear the road black uniforms with Western Michigan block text on the front in white and white numbers on the back. White stripes donning the sides of the pants and around the socks with the black helmets and gloves for Western here on the road. For Miami, it is the alternate white uniforms with the gray pinstripes. Red script Miami on the front and the red numbers on the back. Red gloves, pants, and helmets. And a white sock with a double red stripe along the side. Western Michigan trying to take 4 of 4 against Miami this season. 8-3 the score last night. 8-3 was the score on Friday night back at Lawson Ice Arena in the first series in late January. It was a 2-0 final on Saturday night for the Broncos in the first go-around. Brian Gorkoff with puck in hand. He drops it. Face-off won by Matteo Constantini, and we are underway for one final time here in the 2024-25 season. Glad you can join us here from Cady Arena. Luke Poley and Jeff Middleton with you. Western Michigan moves it to the offensive end to begin, and Brian Sullivan, the Red Hawk captain, will lay out to block a shot. Ryan Sullivan on it on the far side for Miami. Tried to tap it up the wall but couldn't get it by Alex Bump, one of the 7 goal scorers last night for Western. He'll try to fling one in from the far boards, and he will be stood up by Sullivan, who then upends it with his stick. It is then Filion, that took possession of the puck. He got upended, and we play on through both as some sticks got caught up in skates. Colby Ambrosio skated it in and got a shot away, but that was easily sticked aside by Slakinski. Second line out there for Miami. RedHawks honored 8 seniors tonight, as the vast majority of them did not start their career with this program, but have finished up here with Miami and have assisted in the transition under year 1 for Anthony Noreen. Up the boards in the offensive zone, a wrister through traffic is sent in for the Broncos by Krusberg-Rosen, and that one was saved with the left pad by Brett Miller. It's Krusberg-Rosen that will direct it to the center point. Tapped into the high slot by Grant Slakinski, and now a shot from him coming from the near corner is turned away by Miller. Krusberg-Rosen, right point, drags and shoots, and Dukovac caught that in the shin pads and will muscle it out into the neutral zone, and now a 2-on-1 here for Miami. Waldron drags it to his backhand, and a good job to throw the hip into him by Brian Kramer, as he will direct the puck below the goal line. RedHawks finishing up the change nearly 2 minutes in first period, and no score in the second meeting of the weekend between Miami and Western Michigan. Simonovic throws it behind his net. The Bronco captain Tim Washi collects the puck from there, wrapped around the near side to the former RedHawk Robbie Drasner, who transferred to Western Michigan in the offseason. One of a few transfers from NCHC programs. Broncos have 2 rostered former RedHawks. Kirk Larson did not make the trip as the third-string goaltender for WMU. Miami clears it out to center, and now it is Slakinski that will tap it into the offensive zone. That's Garrett Sidlowski down the near side. Forecheck, though, not applied, and now a steal up ahead for John Emmons. He'll get tripped up, and that will be a penalty. And definitely not a bad penalty to take there, as a tripping call will be whistled against Sam Sjoland. And he will sit for 2. Costly giveaway for Sjoland there, but prevented a likely breakaway there for John Emmons after turning it over.
Yeah, certainly, and John Emmons we've seen throughout this year mature and develop. He's been up and down the lineup, played first-line minutes, played fourth-line minutes, but Anthony Noreen and his coaching staff have really loved his game. And once again, we get an early power play here for Miami. The same thing happened last night, got a couple good chances, but really like the energy to start this game. Anthony Noreen electing to start all of his seniors, and it was a great first shift setting the tone for these RedHawks.
Miami controls the offensive zone faceoff. Waldron from the center point nearly gave it away, but it was one-touched, not out of the zone there by Owen Michaels. Waldron now jumps his way to the front of the net. Didn't get there, and now Nassen circle to the far side. They score. Just a scramble drill there as a couple passes got blocked. Casper Nassen ended up with it in space and threaded it across to the far side, where Max Dukovac one-times it in from the right face-off dot. And for Dukovac, his 5th goal of the year has Miami in front 2:58 into this one. It's 1-0 off a power play goal.
Yeah, a little bit of a broken play. Johnny Waldron get his pass deflected, goes to the front of the net, finds Max Dukovac. Dukovac tries to find Ambrosio. He fans on it. Kasper Nassen finds Dukovac on the back door, and the one-timer goes straight home. That's a great play from the RedHawks, creating chaos in front of the net, and they get rewarded.
Up the near wall, it'll be shoved out into the neutral zone by Knuble for Western Michigan, and now some forecheck applied by the New York Rangers draft choice Ty Hendricks. He'll have it stripped away in the far corner of the offensive zone. Goal to Dukovac from Nassen and Ambrosio at 2:58. Again, 5th of the year for the junior from Aurora, Illinois, Max Dukovac.
It's Colby Ambrosio's 20th point of the season as well.
He has had a strong last couple of weekends for this RedHawk team.
Certainly.
Blake Messenberg steals it away, and he'll get hauled down to the ice by Alex Bump as the Broncos regather the puck at neutral ice and will flutter it back in. Bump hustling in on it, beats 2 RedHawks to the puck. It comes up to the near point for Vasanen. D to the far side. A wrister by Scholand ends up wide of the cage. So the penalty by Scholand saves a potential breakaway goal. Miami, though, scores on the power play, which has been something the RedHawks have struggled to do. They were just 16% entering the night on the man advantage this year.
And it's worth mentioning, too, this Western Michigan penalty kill has been fantastic. Coming into yesterday's game, 90% on the kill, so a rare power play goal given up for the Broncos.
Yeah, that's 4th in the nation as the puck rolls in on Brett Miller, and he'll cover up with 15:31 to go in the first. 1-0 Miami off the goal by Max Dukovac. You look at this Western Michigan team, and they are just so sound and solid in every facet of the game, it feels like, as Pat Ferschweiler's done a really good job stepping in for veteran NCAA head coach Andy Murray since his retirement following the pandemic year. Ferschweiler in his 4th season, and a pupil of former both Miami and Western Michigan head coach Jeff Blashill. He was on his staff with Detroit in the NHL. A block shot there at the center point. Ryquist went down to a knee, but Miami cannot clear below the goal line. It is circled to the far side for the Broncos, and now back to the near wing. A shot through traffic from Krusberg-Rawson was saved off a tip, and Miami cleared it up into the bench. So we will get a pause with 14:59 to go in the first. 1-0 RedHawks, and Cady Arena decently crowded here on Saturday night.
And we talk about Miami's power play. You talked a little bit about it, Luke. Not as great as you want it to be, not as great as this Miami coaching staff wants it to be. However, a power play goal last night and a power play goal early tonight really setting the tone for the rest of this game. And like you said, this crowd has been into this game so far. I mean, we're only 5 minutes in, but the energy in Goggin Ice Center tonight has been unreal so far.
Along the near wall, it is Max Dukovac who will push it to the middle of the ice. Puck run into by Johnny Waldron, who will skate it out to center. Waldron up the near side, hands it for Shapani, but Dukovac was a step still inside the zone trying to vacate it, and Miami's in offside. 14:40 to go first period. RedHawks lead it by 1. It was a tie hockey game after 1 period yesterday before the explosion by the Broncos in the second. Neutral ice face-off between Waldron and Cam Knuble. RedHawks win it, and Richard Simonovics will shoot it off the far corner glass in the offensive zone. Up to the near point, Moulton with a wrister through traffic. Didn't catch any tips on its way in. Save was made by Slakinski. Up the near wall, Knuble pins it up against the half boards, trying to tug the puck further and further up the wall. 3 RedHawks digging away at it. Puck is still locked up against the boards and finally pried free by Johnny Waldron, who spun his way between 2 Broncos, and had he controlled it, would have had a clear lane to skate down the middle of the ice and potentially take a shot between the hashes. Instead, he loses it, and Western clears. RedHawks are back in. Shapani dances away from Bump, tried to drag it down the near boards, but he was bumped off the puck by Vasanen. Now we're going to get a penalty, though, as Blake Messenberg stole it back for Miami. And it will be Matt Shapani that is going to go sit 2 minutes for tripping. So just lost his handle on the puck there and got caught reaching, and Shapani called for the tripping penalty. And as good as this penalty kill is for Western Michigan, they're also 10th in the nation in power play percentage at 25% this season. They'll go to the man advantage for the first time tonight.
And just as Miami wants to convert on their chances, same goes for the Broncos here, down 1-0 early.
Shot from the far side, saved by Miller, and a near side rebound. Drew a blast from the right point by Valente, and that went high and wide, and the RedHawks will clear down.
This Western Michigan power play has so many different weapons. Alex Bump alone really controls that left side. We'll see how much he gets the puck here, as he gets the puck here through on this slingshot play through the neutral zone. But he just possesses the puck so well. They're able to find cross-seam passes extremely well, too.
Michael's got a pass through the center that was a little behind him, still managed to throw it towards the back door, although nobody there for the Broncos. Now a cross-ice pass by Bump, hit off the stick of Valente, and it went through the legs of a RedHawk trying to block it in front, and an unbeknownst Brett Miller caught it right in the mask, and Miami clears it down.
There's that seam pass I was just talking about. Bump on the left side, finds Valente, and Miller, not sure he saw that one, but he got in the right place at the right time, able to make that save.
Dumped around the near side. Looked like the Broncos were in offside, and they were, and Miami tried to clear it out, but it was Ryan Sullivan who shoveled it right off of Eric Frank, the linesman, and that will allow the Broncos to keep the puck in the offensive half of the ice, and they will dump it in. Dylan Moulton after it in the near corner of Miami's defensive zone. 42 seconds left on the penalty to Shapani. Riyard Simonovic pulls the puck free, but his clearing attempt stayed on the ice and was held at the left point by Vasanen. Puck log jammed along the far point right now, and it's Morrison who will drag it free for the RedHawks and clear down with 26 seconds left on the power play. 12:18 to go first period. Max Dukavac's goal for Miami has the RedHawks in front 1-0. Michaels to the far side, entering the zone. Zach Sharp gets tacked along the wall, and the RedHawks will take it from him and lob it down the ice.
It's deceiving. Number 10, Sharp.
It is.
Just get used to that.
Sharp will dump it in. It'll roll around the dasher boards to Bump on the near side. He finds Sharp center point. Shapani out of the box. Sharp drags and shoots. That hit a shin pad in front. Looks like Ambrosios, who's hobbling a little bit as the puck goes up into the protective netting, and that will bring us to a media timeout. Back to full strength here from Cady Arena. Miami gets a power play goal, kills off a penalty of their own, and with 11:50 to go in the first period, it's 1-0 RedHawks. You're listening to Miami Hockey on Red Hawk Radio. $11:50 to go, first period. It's Miami 1 in Western Michigan. Nothing off the Max Dukavac power play goal. RedHawks killed off the minor penalty to Matt Shapani just prior to the timeout. And now the RedHawks will take the faceoff in the near corner of Miami's defensive zone. Tim Washi, the captain who's played a whole MLB season worth of college hockey games, 162 in his career, takes the face-off against the young blood, Miami's John Emmons, and it's Emmons that wins it forward and pushes it between the two defensemen for Western Michigan and down the ice. Short of icing, Miami in hard on the forecheck as the big Casper Nasson lays a hit in the corner. Puck floated out to center by the Broncos, where Nasson will grab it, spin, and fire into the offensive zone. Up the near wall, it is poked further and further down the boards by Tristan Lemire, but now recovered on the defensive blue line by Spencer Cox. He goes D-to-D for Miami, and Hampus Ryquist will shoot it in from the center red line, and that will go in on goal. Slakinski covers. Emmons was on the edge of the blue paint, and he got torn down by a couple of Broncos who thought he did not give ample space, and yeah, it was Robbie Drasner, the former Red Hawk, that was in on that with the captain, Tim Washi. As we mentioned, backup freshman Hampton Slakinski in net tonight for Western Michigan, making his 17th appearance of his true freshman year. Cameron Rowe has been the primary guy for the last couple of seasons, has split time somewhat this season with Slakinski, who is a draft choice of the LA Kings, one of 8 draft choices on this Broncos team. Face-off win on the far side for Miami in the offensive zone. 11:11 to go first period. Miami leads it 1-0. Western Michigan with a steal. They'll tap it up the wall on the far side, and just out of reach for Kreuzberg-Rawson to get to, and so Miami will clear it in. Redhawks are still offside, and that gives the Bronco defense ample time to set up as a pass is threaded forward just into the offensive zone for Sidlowski. Tap to the far boards, a shot from the far hashes ripped in by Brian Kramer, and that got sticked aside by Miller. Redhawks clear, and now it's Knuble from center who will shovel it partway into the offensive zone. Connor Hutchison, one of the 8 Miami seniors honored tonight, grabs it for the Redhawks. And now through the middle of the ice gives for Johnny Waldron, who turned it over. Alex Bump throws it towards the back door. He had a teammate breaking there, but could not connect with him, as that was Constantini out in front for the Broncos. 10:16 to go first period. Puck behind the Miami net. Bump, who scored a goal last night, gets it up left point. Vasanen back for Bump, far circle. Gets it to his forehand. Will now circle back towards the point. Try to dangle it through the legs of Hutchison, who will steal it away, but now can't find Shapani down the middle of the ice, and Miami fails to break out. Back in deep for the Broncos. Constantini slams the brakes. Heading up the far side. Hands it at the point for Vasanen. Cross-ice shot for Sholin, gloved out of the air by Miller, who hangs on. 10 seconds past the midway mark of the first. Western out shooting Miami 7-4, but the score remains 1-0 Redhawks.
We've seen Miami's tendency to take the puck in the middle of the ice and just try and clear it out, but Connor Hutchison can't be turning the puck over to a guy like Alex Bump with his line mates Costantini, Owen Michaels. Those two, along with Bump, that line in general has been one of the best in college hockey this season. You can't be throwing a puck errantly through the middle of the ice if they're out there. 37 combined goals between those three. Face-off is stuck on the dot for a minute in the near side of the zone before it's pulled free by Miami, but again, they turn it over on the far half wall before they can clear. Now Drasner with a shot through traffic, save made by Miller, and he will gobble it up. 9:35 to go in the first. Face-off from the far side of the ice in Western Michigan's offensive zone. Once again, another turnover that leads to a Western Michigan chance. This team is just too good to be turning the puck over in their own zone, especially against these top 2 lines. Just got to be smarter with the puck, and we've seen that cost them. We saw it cost the Miami RedHawks last night a couple of times, so just got to be careful with where you're placing the puck. Redhawks win the face-off, shoot it down the far side. It'll go all the way down for icing, and Miami is just hemmed up in their own zone right now. Don't get much of a reprieve with this Western Michigan team. They are deep. Mentioned 37 goals between those 3 on the top line. Bump, Constantini, and Michaels. Valente, Slakinski, and Naring on the second line. 30 goals between those 3. Zach Naring, the Winnipeg Jets draft pick, had 2 goals last night. Grant Slakinski, 3 assists night for him last night as well. So like you said, Luke, really, really deep team with an excellent top 6. Face-off win to the top of the left circle. Valente's shot got blocked on the one-timer. Picked up in the far corner by Naring. He tried to feed it back to his defense, but missed his man. It'll go all the way down the ice. Broncos recover it back behind their own goal, and Naring will flutter it across the ice through center. Valente enters the zone, finds a man cutting through. That was Slakinski, who banged it on the short side of Brett Miller. He will stand it up with the right pad, and now Miami will again chip it back out to neutral ice. 8:54 to go in the first. Max Dukovac's goal stands as the only one of the period so far. It's 1-0 Redhawks. Cargioello tips it ahead for Miami into the offensive zone. Kramer will stick it around the near side of the ice as
Morrison took a spill and took out the official on the far side in the process. Krusberg-Rosen will throw it to some open space on the far side of the ice where Harkarainen will skate into it for Western Michigan and dump in. Miami breaks out quickly now, and Blake Messenberg will just softly chip it as he crosses the red for the RedHawks to finish their change. With speed down the far side of the ice, Sam Sholin tips it into the offensive zone. Hutchison hands it behind the RedHawk cage for Spencer Cox. Mishandled it, but did whack it far enough up the near boards for Casper Nassen to get it. He'll now chip it off the near wall, and will get to it in the near corner of Miami's offensive zone. Locked up, though, in a 2-on-2 battle. The RedHawks do win it, and it's Hutchison up the near wall that will twist it back to the corner. Nassen shielding the puck off. It slides through the middle of the ice where John Emmons had his stick lifted. Good defensive play there by Harkarainen. And Western Michigan clears, but it will not be icing as it took a touch. Hendricks down the far side of the ice, enters the zone, and he gets it poked away from him by Hutchison. Now up the near wall, it is Nassen, tapping it once and twice now out of the air to get it to Emmons, who will drive it further into the western end. Slakinski out of his net to go get it, backhands it to Drasner in the near corner. RedHawks finish up the change. Lemire skates it down the near wall and can't direct the puck through traffic along the near blue line. Now Western Michigan will head into the offensive zone, and Hendricks got upended, and there will be a penalty on the RedHawks as Hendricks threw both hands up into the sky and kind of fell in a comedic fashion almost, but a pretty easy call for the officiating crew. It'll be 2 minutes for either tripping or hooking. Or high sticking, they'll call that, Dylan Moulton.
Yeah, Dylan Moulton not happy with the call, arguing with Andy Thackenberry, the man who raised the arm, but nonetheless, Miami going to have to go back to the penalty kill, and we've seen this time and time again this season. You can't keep giving these NCHC teams chances on the power play, otherwise you're going to pay.
Western 0 for 1 today, but it's a top 10 power play in the country, like it feels like you face every week in this league. Constantini slides it through. That got blocked. Second try. Skipped over the stick of Michaels in the slot as he was trying to get a shot away. And now the RedHawks will intercept a pass as Hampus Ryquist broke that up on the near side of the ice, and he will clear. Short shifts for the RedHawks off the bench in about 20 seconds after clearing down. It is Bump that skates it down the far seam and now cuts to the middle, leaving it for Michaels. He will power his way to the front, trying to tuck it back, left it for Bump, who will bang it wide on the far side. Now Waldron can't clear. Sholin for Bump, far circle. Wait, shoots, save made. Rebound there for Western Michigan. Miller sprawling after it, and he covers up with Broncos hacking and whacking away. And with 6:25 to go in the period, the crowd gives a nice ovation after the stoppage as Brett Miller stands tall in the Miami net.
And once again, this first power play unit heading off early. It's an interesting strategy by Pat Ferschweiler and his coaching staff. They bring that first unit off after about 45 seconds, but man, they got some chances there. Brett Miller sprawled out in the crease, able to find that puck, just kind of pouncing around, seeing if he can land on it, and he sure did. 12 saves already for Brett Miller in this first period.
Minute 13 to go, and the penalty to Moulton, as Jeff mentioned, second unit out there now for Western Michigan, and they control the draw. It is skated down the near wall and put back up to the point now for Vasanen. Vasanen has it center point, dragging to the near side. Slakinski shoots it. That got blocked by somebody in front. Looks like it might have been Sullivan, who will head off the ice as the puck skitters just past the center red. Slakinski back in on the right wing for Western Michigan. He will tap it into the corner for Brian Kramer. Now Slakinski again on the half wall. He'll bank it up the boards for Vasanen on the right point. Back for Slakinski, handing back for Vasanen center point. Slakinski with a drive. That got blocked by Dempsey. And now it's Vasanen again from the far point holding the zone. Mehring, the lone 2-goal scorer, throws it out in front, and Slakinski scores. Zach Naring, who had 2 goals last night, finds Slakinski down the center, and he puts it over the left shoulder of Brett Miller with a one-timer. A power play goal for Western Michigan. Ties the game at 1 with 5:34 to go in the first.
And just the puck movement by this Western Michigan team. They're moving in and out, side to side, down low, every single which way, and nothing Brett Miller could do about that one. A great shot from Slakinski, his 4th point of the weekend and his first goal. Just a fantastic play all around from that second unit of Western Michigan.
Slakinski from Naring and Washi, or from Washi and Naring, I should say. I guess Tim Washi might have tipped that puck as it headed through the slot before it found him. So Washi, who it actually did look like was the intended recipient of that pass, got a stick on it and will get the primary assist. And Naring will get the secondary. A power play goal for Western Michigan, their 22nd of the season. And we are tied at 1 with the goal at 14:26 of the first. 5 minutes to go now in the first period. And Miami finds themselves in a tie hockey game once again. The RedHawk goal scorer, Max Dukovac, throws it across for Michael Quinn. Back for Dukovac now on the near side. Hands it for Vitalins just inside the blue. Throws it ahead for Dylan Moulton, who had his stick lifted as he went by Hendricks, and he overshot the puck. Back out at neutral ice, it is Moulton who threw it to the far side looking for Dukovac, but he was headed backward to the Miami bench for a change, and that allows Western Michigan to gain possession. Out at center ice, RedHawks with a takeaway. Nasson down the far side, throws it to the middle looking for Waldron, and that was intercepted. Now the puck banks off the end wall and almost skittered out in front, but it was grabbed before it could get there by Sedlowski, who will skate it across the red and chip in. Moulton back behind his own net, hands it up the wall for Casper Nasson, head up the ice, skating down the right wing, tried once to shovel it into the zone, but he missed, and now a break up the near side of the ice for Tim Washi. He's forced into the near corner of the offensive zone by Cox, and now pasted behind the net as the puck will roll up the near kickboard, and Drasner will grab it just outside the blue line. D to the far side. It is roped on in by Sharp. RedHawks now trying to break out of the far side of the ice, and Morrison will tap it up the wall and out. Drasner skates it down the right wing, will lift it into the offensive zone, and short of the red line, I should say, for icing there. Drasner was 6 inches maybe?
Yeah, maybe.
Short of the red line. And really, everybody on the ice was pretty much in the offensive zone at that point by the time the puck got in, but these NCHC officials are notoriously strict on the icing call, as we know.
Had plenty of those last night as well.
And so that'll bring an offensive zone face-off here for Miami with 3:37 to go in the period. Blake Messenberg gets his legs chopped out from under him as Tim Washi wins the draw. The Broncos will bring it into the offensive zone. Morrison on the far side throws it up the wall for Messenberg. Kramer tried to hold the zone, and he got knocked over by Frankie Caragiello. Miami will shovel it up the near side, and that'll go down for icing. Quinn played it by Drasner. Probably had a play on that puck, it looked like, but regardless, it'll come back into the RedHawks zone with 3:17 to go in the period in a game tied at 1, but a heavy Western Michigan shots advantage, 13-4.
Yeah, when you give the Broncos 2 power plays in a period, you should expect to see a lot of shots, and Brett Miller so far has played really well, seeing pucks well. The 1 goal he's allowed, not really his fault at all, and Miami really needs to try and play in their own zone a little bit more here.
Rosen threw it out in front. And that got directed on net by Slakinski, the goal scorer. Save was made by Miller as Miami cleared. Rosen will throw it back into the Miami end, where Hutchison having trouble initially getting it by the forecheck of Valente, but does force it up the near wall, where the RedHawks will break out. Colby Ambrosio taps it into the offensive end of the far wing. The Boston College transfer, another senior that was honored tonight for the RedHawks. Simonovics at the right point will wrap it into the offensive zone. Near corner, the RedHawk captain Ryan Sullivan will throw it back where it came from. Filion and Rosen collide. Puck whipped up the far wall, where it is knocked down by Valente and skates it diagonally across center ice, and will backhand it in before finishing up as part of the final 4 Broncos to change. RedHawks now turn it over without much pressure in the zone, and Constantini is called for offside, and that is a huge break for this RedHawks team, as that would have been likely a 3-on-2 or maybe even a 3-on-1 for this team, as Western Michigan would try to take the lead. 2:09 to go in the first period, and we've got a timeout on the ice. Grant Slakinski's 7th goal of the year has tied the game at 1. We'll be back to Cady Arena in a moment. It's Miami Hockey on RedHawk Radio. 2:09 to go, first period. Western Michigan has tied the game at 1 as the Broncos got a power play goal courtesy of Grant Slakinski. The Northern Michigan transfer has evened the game at 1. Broncos with two power play opportunities, I should say, in the first period. And they converted on one of them to tie up the game. Both goals coming on the man advantage so far tonight. Face-off win at neutral ice by Western Michigan, and Vasanen will play it into Miami's zone, where Johnny Waldron will then grab it and skate it out for the RedHawks. Max Dukovac chips it up near corner of the offensive zone for the RedHawks. Johnny Waldron had it poked off his stick. Dukovac drags it in front, chips it on, save made, rebound came to his stick, but it was stripped away in the slot by Alex Bump, who will now skate it ahead and direct it forward for Western Michigan into the near corner. He gets blown up from behind by Ryquist and goes hard into the wall, and that'll bring a penalty and likely a review.
Yeah, that's just not a smart penalty to take. Rydquist, I don't know if he lost his footing as well, but just not a smart penalty to take there. 1:37 left in the period.
So Hampus Ryquist goes to the box. And no review, just a minor for boarding on Hampus Ryquist, and the contingent of Western Michigan fans in the far corner is voicing their opinion on the matter. Yeah, like you said, it's in that dangerous spot where every hit looks bad, about 5 feet out from the boards, and that is in the rule book as the most textbook boarding penalties can be. But as we get a look at the replay, it looks like Ryquist might have maybe been off his footing a little bit, but upon replay, it did look like he kind of drove Washi into the boards, and I think Miami might be the beneficiaries there that was not looked at again, as the RedHawks will now break up the pass, going from D to D, and Matt Schipani will skate it into the offensive zone before backhanding in. Yeah, looking at that on replay, I'm very surprised the officials did not at least take a look, as that looked like it could have spelled a major for Ryquist. Regardless,
I think it helps that he got right back up.
Yeah,
as well,
Washi bounced up off the ice, which is good, of course. Western back into the offensive zone. Third power play try of the period for the Broncos. They're 1 for 2 so far. Vasanen tried to force it to Slakinski through traffic. RedHawks will steal that away and clear. Under a minute to go in the first period. We'll have about 20 seconds of carryover penalty time into period number 2. For now, the Broncos will try to strike here in period 1 as Michaels hands it off. Constantini hits the stop sign and whips it into the near corner where the puck is broken up. Miami initially can't clear as Constantini holds the zone, but then Schipani will get to the loose puck first and clear down. 25 seconds remaining in the period. Sholin hands it back for Bump, full head of steam across center. Bump steps left, enters the zone. Into the far corner he goes, turns and tries to throw it out in front. That got blocked with the skate by Hutchison with 12 seconds to go in the period. Miami cannot clear. Constantini tucks it into the near corner. Valente tried to throw it in front with one hand on his stick. Now a sharp angle shot from the far side by Bump gets blocked in front. Puck will go down the ice, and that will be the end of the first period as Miami comes through with what is probably their strongest penalty kill effort thus far of the 3 power plays that Western Michigan had in the first period. Broncos will have 23 seconds of carryover time headed into period number 2. Overall, Jeff, can't complain if you're Miami. You got the early goal. You concede on the power play, which is something that you just have to get real with yourself. It's going to happen if you take 3 penalties in a period against a team like Western Michigan. Staying out of the box, as it always is, will be important for this Miami team, but tied at 1 and can't complain about the effort this team has given at all in this first period, especially after what we saw last night.
I would say both first periods were very good for Miami. They had, a couple chances early, and then of course you give up a couple power plays and you give up a power play goal, which that's going to happen, like you said, Luke, against the Western Michigan team like the one we're seeing tonight. But overall, I think the only complaint you could possibly have would be you'd like to play in your offensive zone a little bit more. Only 5 shots in the period to Western Michigan's 14, but 3 power plays is going to help out with that. And Max Dukovac's goal is a good start, and you're going in again to the second period tied at 1, and if you're in that RedHawks locker room, I'm sure that there is a little bit of talk about what happened yesterday and how there's going to be certainly pushback, especially with 23 seconds left on this man advantage for Western Michigan. But overall, like you said, Luke, I think you can be pretty proud of that effort. Just like to play in your offensive zone a little bit more in the next 20.
Certainly so, and Miami hoping after they can kill off this final 23 seconds of the Rehnquist penalty that they can spend some more time in the offensive zone and not have to spend so much of it killing in their own end. Marching band is all put on broomball shoes for their annual on-ice performance as the entertainment between periods. We'll take a break, and when we come back, Aiden Sohn says your Red Hawk Radio intermission. After one here in the final home game of the season for Miami, tied up with Western Michigan at 1-0. You're listening to Miami Hockey on Red Hawk Radio.
Welcome to the first intermission report here on Red Hawk Radio. Again, for your pregame, intermission, postgame report, my name is Aiden Sohns. And what a period. 1-1 tied game going on into the second period. And so far, it has been an amazing game. You can tell the Red Hawks really want to earn this win. There's been a lot of hits, a lot of block shots, but maybe dial back a little bit, maybe a little too aggressive. That we are taking more penalties than we need. And that's the reason why Western Michigan is tied with Miami as they score on their power play. But speaking of power plays, we also score against them with our power play, which was a beautiful one-timer. This was a pass from Kasper Nassen to Max Dukovac on the right side of the post, slap shot it in, and it was a great play overall. Going into the stats, a few things catch my eye. Of course, we're tied 1-1. Shots on goal is a little bit worrisome. We can see definitely a difference. 14 shots on goal for Western Michigan compared to Miami's 5. Total shots, on the other hand, 28 for Western Michigan and 6 for Miami. Now, if that worries you, it doesn't worry me as much as the shots on goal, mainly because of all the block shots we have been doing. That is 14 shots that Western Michigan has attempted but did not reach the goalie. That means that it's 14 block shots or 14 missed shots due to pressure from the defenseman. On the other side, Miami only has 6 shots compared to 5 shots on goal. Only one of our shots was blocked, and the rest reached the goalie. In terms of saves, Brett Miller with 13 saves so far. He's been standing on his head the entire first period, and I'm excited to see what is to come with him. Again, both teams, Miami and Western Michigan, scored on the power play, although it is worth noting Western Michigan did have 3 power play attempts. That is because Miami had 3 penalties. which, again, as I was saying, a little too aggressive. We should dial it back just a little bit, but we need to keep the same intensity that we have been doing this entire first period. Again, play it safe, play it smart. I'm loving all the hits, but as long as they're good, clean hits is the only deal breaker. In terms of face-offs, Western Michigan is beating Miami 12-7, but again, it is only tied 1-1. It seems to not make a huge difference so far in this game. If I'm someone like Ryan Sullivan, Johnny Waldron, John Emmons, or Blake Messenberg, though, that is definitely something I would try to keen on in the second period. Now that is what's happening in this game. Western Michigan and Miami is tied 1-1. Let's check in on the rest of the league. Air Force at Sacred Heart is in overtime, 2-2. Canisius at Bentley. Game just ended the first period and it's tied 0-0. St. Lawrence and Dartmouth just ended their first period as well. Dartmouth leading 1-0. Holy Cross is hosting American International. Ended the first period. Holy Cross is winning 2-1. Number 5 Maine is at number 16 Massachusetts. Halfway through the first period, tied 0-0. 15 seed Penn State at number 11 Michigan. Penn State is winning 2-1 at the end of the first period. Number 17 UMass Lowell at New Hampshire. UMass winning 1-0. Also at the end of the first period, Army West Point at Niagara. Niagara is winning 1-0. Number 5 Providence is at Northeastern. Providence is tied 0-0 at the end of the first period. The Wisconsin Badgers at number 9 Ohio State. Wisconsin, just like yesterday, is starting to do an upset as they are winning 1-0 at the end of the first period. Minnesota Duluth, the Bulldogs are at St. Cloud State. End of the first period, Minnesota Duluth is winning 2-1. Also at the end of the first period, Boston University, ranked number 10 in the nation against Vermont. Boston U winning 2-0. Also at the end of the first period, Bemidji State at Augustana, tied 0-0. Michigan Tech at the Bowling Green Falcons. The Falcons are winning 2-0 at the end of the first period. Also at the end of the first, Lake Superior State at number 14 Minnesota State. Both are tied 1-1. The Omaha Mavericks at number 18 North Dakota Fighting Hawks. Omaha is beating North Dakota 2-0 at the end of the first. Bear State at St. Thomas. At the end of the first period, it is tied 0-0. And finally, the last game currently going on halfway through the first, Yale at Cornell. Cornell is winning 1-0. About 7 minutes left of the first intermission. That will wrap up the first intermission game report. Again, my name is Aiden Stones. I will be back for the second intermission and the post-game report. I will bring it back to Jeff and Luke right after this.
1-1 headed into period number 2 here from Cady Arena alongside Jeff Middleton, Luke West Poley with you as Miami and Western Michigan clash here in the final game of the regular season. RedHawks open the scoring courtesy of Max Dukovac on the power play, and to that point in the period, Jeff, Miami probably had the better of play. They had some good zone time. Shots were about even at that point when Dukovac scored. However, they gave Western Michigan 3 chances on the power play. After that, they scored on the latter power play and now have 23 more seconds on the man advantage to begin this second period, and that finished off what was a relatively lopsided end to the first period in terms of zone time, just because the amount of time Miami spent trying to kill.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, Max Dukovac's goal coming 3 minutes into the game, absolutely huge for momentum on a senior night. You have yet to win a conference game. You haven't won a game in a long time. The energy in Goggin Ice Center tonight has been awesome. But then you take a couple penalties in the back half of the period, and Western Michigan gets a chance to control the game, and they end up getting a power play goal. And like you said, Luke, 23 seconds remaining on this penalty to Hampus Rydquist for boarding. But nonetheless, need to start the period just as you did in the first.
Face-off pulled back by the Broncos, who go right to left in the dark uniforms in period number 2. Miami and the Whites going left to right. Alex Bump flutters one across about waist high that Michaels tried unsuccessfully to knock out of the air in front. So the Broncos will have to recover it along the boards. It is Bump who gets pinned against the wall by Richard Simonovic on the near side. Matt Schapani takes the puck free and clears it down. Hampus Rydquist out of the box as a free man, and Miami kills the penalty, but now a breakaway chance here for Constantini, who couldn't handle the feed from Bump. Just found a seam up the middle of the ice that the RedHawks caught in a change, but the feed from Bump to Constantini was a little behind him, and he couldn't kick it to his stick. Meanwhile, Miami down the left side. It is thrown in front by Quinn and kicked away by Slakinski right to Raymond Vitalins, who couldn't get to it, and now Bump getting down the ice with speed, and he got tripped up in front by Connor Hutchison, and the RedHawks will go right back to the penalty kill 32 seconds after killing off their last penalty, as Connor Hutchison will go for tripping. And man, Connor Hutchison there is fresh, and Alex Bump has been out there for a full minute, and Bump just sped right by him and forced the penalty.
Yeah, and it's hard for Connor Hutchison. He wasn't able to maintain a good gap through center ice and then had to turn around and ended up falling behind Bump, and Bump really such a talented player, but really good at protecting the puck on that breakaway, and ends up getting a penalty drawn on him, ends up going hard into the board. So fortunate to see him hop right back up. He's been kind of taking a beating through the first 21 minutes of this game.
So that'll send Western Michigan to their 4th power play of the game. They are 1 for 3 so far and just got off the man advantage. Out in front, it is Mehring who tried to kick it to his stick between the hashes, but it was poked away from him and out of the zone by Sullivan. Mysonen back to get it for Western Michigan and chipped it partially in, but Hampus Rydquist will deliver it right back to him in the neutral zone. Bump back out there on the ice, and down the left seam he goes, and he gets crunched off the puck by Dylan Moulton as he got to the tops of the circles, and Hampus Rydquist will throw it down the ice. 45 seconds gone by on the penalty to Connor Hutchison. Still a 1-1 hockey game, nearly 2 minutes into the second. Michaels hands it off for Constantini, throws it in front, rebound, kicks right to Michaels. He couldn't get a clean shot away on the edge of the blue paint. Now from the top of the house there in the middle of the ice, Constantini couldn't pull the trigger on a shot. He has it back, though, carrying it back in. It's slacked away from him, though, by Richard Simonovic. Waldron applying some forecheck for Miami. Western does eventually get it by him. Valente feeds Constantini down the left side. He'll whirl around and give up to the left point for Bump. Down the wall, Scholand over to the far side for Valente. Cross-ice bump, top of the left circle with a wrister save made with the armpit there of Brett Miller. And he will hang on to it with 27 seconds left on the penalty to Hutchison. 17:30 to go, second period. Shots now 16-5 in favor of Western Michigan, still 1-1.
Yeah, and really kind of the only setup play that Western Michigan had gotten so far on this power play. Obviously, they get an offensive zone draw here with 27 seconds left, but really good penalty killing from Miami thus far. See what they can do here for the rest of the man advantage.
Kreuzberg-Rawson down the wall for Kramer, the AIC transfer, back up for Kreuzberg-Rawson, and now Kramer again in the circle, tips it for the bumper man, and a one-timer from Shingothi got blocked in front and directed below the goal line. It is Kramer to the far corner for Washi. He is hauled off the puck by Hampus Ryquist, and Miami will clear it out to center. 3 seconds, 2 and 1. Connor Hutchison out of the box. Western back out in front. Shingothi got tripped up. No call coming, and now a breakaway here for Vitalins. In alone. He put it off the post. He put it off the post, and Miami would have scored there, but the goal horn erroneously went off. Oh, goodness.
Oh, my.
That was
wow.
Beyond chaotic. So the first thing that happened is that Hutchison came out of the box. Miami got possession of the puck. Miami almost got called for a too many men as Hutchison, it looked like, was still on the ice when Raymond's Vitalins got a clean breakaway. He faked, went to the backhand, and threw the puck. We see on replay, clear as day off the pipe. It did not go in. Referee signaled no goal immediately. Lights went off here in Cady Arena, and the goal horn went off. Puck then skittered. You could say potentially that Western Michigan had pulled up a little bit because of the goal horn, but the puck did come up to the trailer then, and I believe Matthew Shapani, who put it in the back of the net, beating Slakinski blocker side. But certainly feels like that took a goal off the board there if you're Miami, and you know, that's not the fault of the officials or really anybody on the ice. It's just a really unfortunate break for Miami. As you know, if you're the officials, I believe you gotta blow that play dead. Are they gonna review this potentially? No, just providing an explanation. It was the goal was a dead play after the whistle, which again, the crowd is booing, but
that's the right call.
Yeah, nothing the officials can do there.
Yeah.
It's just really unfortunate that the horn blew, but yeah, Western Michigan probably did pull up a little bit because I think everybody on the ice was just confused more than anything else that the lights went down here in Cady Arena and the goal horn went off.
I'm not exactly sure. It wasn't like it went off the outside of the post. I'm not exactly sure.
Whoa, off the face-off, Ambrosio hits the pipe.
Yeah, I'm just not exactly sure how anyone thought that went in. It was pretty clear Vitalins knew it didn't go in. He was
not celebrating.
No.
That would have been some pretty insane poetic justice, though, with winning that right back to Ambrosio, who almost scored, but he threw it off the crossbar. But yeah, like you said, I mean, there were some Western defenders that I think pulled up and started gliding when really all the players started milling around. But in the 2 to 3 seconds after that puck hit the post, which to our vantage point, it seemed like it pretty obviously hit the post. Everybody on the ice was still going. Vitalins was still going. Obviously, Shapani was because he got to the puck and scored. And it looked like at least Lakinski somewhat made his best effort to make a save on that shot by Shapani. But again, there were some back checkers that were kind of straggling behind the play. And then after the puck entered the net, then everybody really stopped because they were wondering what was going on. Anthony Noreen was furious on the Miami bench. But again, there's just, I don't know, there's not much really anybody can do about that. Right now, Western Michigan gets it into the Miami end as Knuble will push it into the corner. RedHawks, though, will lift it back out to center where Scholand will go D-to-D for Väisänen. The freshman Finn dumps it into the offensive zone for Western Michigan and is thrown out in front on a blind pass there by Knuble, but no Broncos were there for it. Now Hendricks will thread one across the ice. He was looking for Väisänen crashing down the backside, but it missed him and banked off the sideboards and out of the zone. Scholand back to get it in his own zone. Knuble taps it up the wall. Spin around for Sidlowski. He will twist it near the direction of the net. Ends up wide. Hendricks on it for Western Michigan. Tacked along the wall by Johnny Waldron, who can't 360 the puck too far up the boards. Now, though, he will force it up the wall to John Emmons, who can at least get it out to neutral ice again. Hendricks knocks it out of the air and will get it a couple feet into the offensive zone, but Miami will bring the puck to a pressure-free area. Now Johnny Waldron finds Dukovac down the far side of the ice, trying to slide one in front of the Western net, but that got cut off And the Broncos clearing attempt flipped up and into the Miami bench. And we get a whistle. 14:35 to go, second period. And despite a couple of post sits, still a 1-1 hockey game.
And now it's all about your response. You know, we've seen these Miami teams give up goals right after something adverse happens, and that's about as adverse as you can get other than an opponent goal. And now it's all about the response. Can these lines continue to churn out really good shifts and create chances like they got on that breakaway and then on the rebound? Second chances are going to be as important as ever here for Miami.
RedHawks control the faceoff. Caragiello throws one on for the near side boards. That got stood up in front by Washi. Morrison will now shovel it in behind where Caragiello gets pinned along the wall. Still gets it to Quinn, though, on the far half wall. Quinn handling, tried to slide one in front. That got blocked, and now Shingothi with a full head of steam up the ice. He'll chip it into the offensive zone. Toronto Maple Leafs draft pick will go after it as the RedHawks have reinforcements there, and Hutchison will pull it free. Saucer pass through the middle of the ice finds Caragiello just past the red, and he will push it the rest of the way in for the RedHawks as they finish up their change. I would have to check the rule, Jeff, about specifically the errant whistle, as they mentioned, but we had a situation like this last homestand, as meanwhile down the left side it is thrown in the direction of the net by Hakarainen and goes wide. But Anthony Noreen was complaining about a play from earlier on where I believe the net came off potentially. Yep. And as Miami's going to throw this down the far side of the ice, and it'll miss as a pass didn't connect between Simonovic and Sullivan. Down for icing with 13:26 to go in the second. There was a rule change, as Anthony Noreen alerted us to in the post-game press conference this summer, that said you can play off continuation now and call it a goal, even if it happens after something that would cause a whistle if the goal would have happened anyway. Now, would that goal have happened anyway? You know, there's an argument maybe that it could, but probably not, right? And so that is likely why the call stood.
It's also hard for, in that situation, for a goaltender specifically, and the lights go down, and there's flashing lights everywhere on the ice. Like, it's hard to keep up, I'm sure, with the puck. So just looking out for your goaltenders, trying to prevent any injuries, any errant pucks towards the net, and that's probably likely why the continuation rule doesn't really apply there.
Big hit by Colby Ambrosio on the far side, as that'll get the RedHawks into a puck battle with Väisänen, and now Miami's going to take a penalty here.
It's going to be Ryan Sullivan. He's going to get a boarding call here. It's just not, again, another bad hit. Not smart hit, I should say. Right close to the boards.
So the RedHawks will have to kill a fifth penalty tonight, not even halfway through the game. 12:59 to go, second period. And we remain tied at 1. Broncos with another power play chance when we return. You're listening to Miami Hockey on Red Hawk Radio. $12:59 to go. Crazy sequence right before the timeout with Miami getting a breakaway following their last penalty for Raymond Vitalins, who was changing for Connor Hutchison coming out of the box. Nobody on the other side of the red line. He hit it off the post. Goal horn went off. Lights went down. Puck did not go in the net. Players kept playing. Matt Schipani immediately scored afterwards. Goal, of course, was waved off because you can't play through that whistle. Miami, meanwhile, will go back to the kill now, but the kill won't last long as right off the face-off, Western Michigan's going to take a penalty. So 12:51 to go in the second period, a 1-1 hockey game. The boarding penalty to Ryan Sullivan leads to a very short-lived power play for Western Michigan as Matteo Constantini, it looked like, gave a bear hug, or kind of a tie-up down near the legs, I should say, to, I believe, John Emmons that was out pressuring on the point.
Johnny Waldron.
Or Waldron, excuse me. And so that leads to a penalty just 7 seconds into the Western power play. And now we'll have a lengthy 4-on-4 here with 12:51 to go in the second period. It is Ryquist, Cox, Dukovac, Waldron out there for Miami to take the offensive zone faceoff, which Waldron wins. Cox waits, wrists one from the top of the left circle that goes well high. Ryquist now finds Dukovac from the far dot, drags one through the legs of his defender, but could not get a clean shot away as Sholin did well to at least recover after Dukovac deked the puck by him. And now a long pass up ahead springs Michael on a partial breakaway, and Owen Michaels throws it into the glove of Brett Miller, who makes the save. Michaels had a seam down the far side. Hampus Ryquist just kind of lost him on the far blue line. Did catch up at least to get on his back hip and force him to shoot rather than deke, but still a good opportunity. Minute 30 to go in the 4-on-4 before an 8-second Miami power play. 12:28 to go in the second period, and still tied at 1.
And we've seen Miami really find success in the 4-on-4, and just going back to that play by Waldron, just great. That's the kind of hustle you want to see from your guys who are scoring as well on the penalty kill, playing all around. Johnny Waldron has been fantastic, as he has been throughout his entire Miami career. But that's the kind of hustle play you want to see. Just keep those legs moving, and you're going to draw a penalty.
Ambrosio with a nice dangle to get into the offensive zone, but the puck was swiped away by Kramer again. Another recovery after a Bronco defender got beat. They just turn around and knock the puck away. Miami dumps it in here with Shapani forechecking, but with the extra space in the 4-on-4, Western Michigan will win possession. Minute to go in the four-a-side skating. Hakkarainen spins, nearly lost it to Ambrosio for a potential breakaway at his offensive blue line. Now Miami coughs it up, and it will be Krusberg-Rawson skating it in up to the top of the right circle where Arister was sent in by Kramer, and that tipped puck bounced wide. Kramer now on the far half wall will settle it down, cuts to the middle of the ice between the circles, tried to hand off for Washi but missed him, and Washi will have to recover it on the far side blue line. Chipped back into the corner for Kramer, skating up the wall. Kramer cross ice for Robbie Drasner, into the middle of the ice. It is thrown in from a sharp angle. Slakinski scores. Just a turnaround shot as he was falling away from the net. Almost a fadeaway there for Slakinski. Might have hit somebody in front, but it went right between the legs of Brett Miller, and Western Michigan has taken the lead. As if that was not tipped, it'll be Slakinski's second goal of the night.
Yeah, that's got to be frustrating. Colby Ambrosio, Matthew Pani, Riyard Simonovic, and Dylan Moulton all out there for an extended period of time, so tired group for sure. And Brett Miller, once that went in, immediately shrugged his shoulders, kind of if, what am I supposed to do about that? I'm not sure who was standing in front, but it was Dylan Moulton and Hakkarainen right in front of Miller. He's unable to see anything, and that puck just squeaks through. Really tough goal for the goaltender, Brett Miller.
Metalins will tuck one in front down the far side, and he got lit up as he got rid of that. John Emmons, meanwhile, made his way to the edge of the blue paint. Man, Metalins got rocked as that puck rolled in on Slakinski, and he covered it up. Whoa.
Yeah, that's a hard impact on the end wall, and just kind of taken out.
Yeah,
right at the circle. And
didn't really look like Zach Sharp. I was going to say, just live, took my eyes off it because he'd gotten rid of the puck, and you think after a collision that hard that there might have been something malicious there from Zach Sharp, but it looks like he just fell on replay.
Just slid into the end wall, too. That's a dangerous play, like a sneaky dangerous play, I should say. Not really by anybody, but if you fall and you end up hitting the wrong thing on the end boards, then you can find yourself in a world of trouble. So good to see Vitalin's right back up.
Bump skates it down the far side meanwhile and will make his way all the way in on net. And Brett Miller will just come out to pounce on it. Michaels just gets shoved into the crossbar by John Emmons, and the net comes dislodged.
Things getting a little heated here. John Emmons right in the middle of everything.
Everything.
Him and Robbie Drasner have been jawing the entire night. Yeah, Emmons not afraid to make his presence felt, and neither are the Western Michigan players when he's in front of the net.
Penalty to Sullivan has expired, and so 3 seconds of power play time here for Miami out of the total 8 seconds that they'll get. They'll take a defensive zone draw to start this power play. 10:54 remaining second period. Western Michigan now leading it 2-1. And the Broncos win the faceoff, and out comes Constantini, and we are back to even strength again, this time at 5-a-side. Up the near wall, Sullivan tipped it for Miami into the offensive zone, but he tipped it short of the red line, and it'll go down for icing. And with 10:37 to go in the second period, Western Michigan leads Miami 2-1. Mentioned Robbie Drasner being in the middle of really a lot of that drawing, and that's a little surprising, all things considered. He was not really that type of player at all at Miami. He was kind of known as a nice guy when he was here. Did not really play much either for this RedHawks team, and he's transferred arguably into a higher level program, you know, to be entirely honest, in Western Michigan that has more talent depth, and he's had a real heck of a year.
Yeah, so he's playing, you know, middle pair, bottom pair minutes, but at the same time, double-digit points this year and over 30 games played, so really found success with Western Michigan.
Miami ices it again off the faceoff. Pat Ferschweiler's had very good success in the portal. It's a little bit of a different type of portal target than, again, what you see at the Denvers and the North Dakotas of the world that are looking for guys that were really already double-digit point getters, double-digit goal scorers, even at times at high-level programs. But he has had a ton of success in finding those guys. Western Michigan wins the face-off, but Shingothi got tied up looking for a one-timer, and Miami will take it and finally clear down the ice to get the tired bodies off. 10:11 to go in the second period. It's 2-1 Western as Shingothi will twist it into the offensive zone. Simonovics around his net with possession. Will shove it up the near wall. Puck out at center, rolling on its side across the center M now, and Carajoyello will fire it in for Miami. Skips over the stick of Slakinski, who'd come out of his net to play it below the goal line, but Western still gets to it and breaks it out cleanly. Hakkarainen will throw a cross-corner dump to the far side that bounces up against the boards and is controlled by Dylan Moulton. He will feed a long pass ahead to Frankie Carajoyello, who will send it the rest of the way into the offensive zone. But some pretty light forecheck here for Miami as they were in a partial change, and Western breaks out easily. Now a long pass ahead, finds a thread down the right side. Valente throws it to the back door, and Western scores.
It got waved off, I believe. Referee on the goal line was saying no goal. I believe it might have been for a kicking motion.
Yes, call on the ice is no goal. So it was Naring that scored it on the back door. And are they even going to review this? It doesn't look like they are. Pat Ferschweiler's getting an explanation right now. See if we can get another look at this. It was just a simple play to the back door.
Yeah. It did roll in kind of slowly. I wasn't sure if he got a stick on it or if it was a shin pad.
Looks like it was a stick on replay.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's challengeable. Pat Ferschweiler's going to call a timeout here, or he's going to try to.
I believe this is challenge.
I would say I would think it would be challengeable.
This seems like a pretty routine challenge. Yep, they're going to challenge it. And again, looking on replay, looks like they're probably going to win this one. We'll get an overhead look here, and overhead look is a little more interesting, actually, as his stick was kind of Naring. His stick was kind of right next to his skate, and it's tough to see on the TV broadcast because they kind of cut to it right as the puck is passing his stick. The only thing I could think of, though, is if the puck hopped over his stick and hit his skate, and then it was kicked in, but it sure looks like the stick was up against the skate, but it was the stick that directed it in. And again, live certainly caught me off guard, and you, Jeff, saw the official signal, but I think most people in the building thought that was a clean goal. There was kind of a second wind of RedHawk fans that eventually realized after a while, thinking their team had been scored on, that it was waved off. I think most people looking at that live thought that that went in off a stick.
Yeah, it got real quiet in Goggin Ice Center as, you know, they were about to, Western Michigan, they were all going through the line. I don't think they realized that it was called no goal either.
Yeah, I mean, it sure looks like on this replay that it hit his stick. I mean, it doesn't look particularly close. Again, the overhead angle would be a really good tell of it, but unfortunately the overhead angle that was shown on the TV broadcast cuts about right as the kick/shot would happen, so you don't really know which one it is. But from the side angle at ice level, it really looks like it just hit his stick, plain and simple. As our officiating crew's taking a look at it, Stan Jurek and Andy Thackaberry with their eyes on the monitor. Got the big guns in the house with the NCHC supervisor in the house tonight. And
Special
my dad's over there
levels.
running replay tech.
That's the big man in the house.
They've
Mr.
had a
West
lot of
Poley.
issues with replay this year. They had to reposition some cameras, and they've had some cameras that weren't working for the bulk of the Arizona State series. The replay was actually not working at all. Fortunately, never really needed it in that series, actually, as don't think there was ever really a point when the replay was down in that series where they said that it was needed. However, kudos to the facilities team. That is not my dad, but the facilities team led by Chase Speaks and McKenna Reed and the crew that deals with that stuff, getting that squared away over the last couple weeks. We're going to get our call here. Call on the ice overturn. It's a good goal for Western Michigan. And that's what we figured would happen.
Yeah, not an unexpected outcome there. Unfortunate for Miami, of course, but not an unexpected one as, they're showing the replay here on the TV feed. Certainly looks right there that he got a stick on it.
Oh, yeah, now we get the backside view from behind Miami's net. And, you can kind of see the stick is up against the heel for Naring, and that is where the confusion came for the referees. He probably saw that puck basically hit right where his stick and his heel met, but it looks like he does follow through enough with the stick that the puck last comes in contact with his stick rather than his skate, and that's a good goal. So Naring will get the goal, assist to Valente and Kramer at 10:37 of the second period, and the Broncos now lead at 3-1 with just over 9 minutes to go in the game's middle period. Around the near side, it is Kramer that plays it down low for the goal scorer in Naring. For Zach Naring, the freshman, that is his 13th goal of the season. The Winnipeg Jets draft pick as Hampus Ryquist skates it a step inside the blue line and will wrist one on. That's easily handled by Slakinski. He will hold. With 8:51 to go in the period, shots 21-6. Western Michigan, they lead 3-1.
Yeah, I believe that was Miami's first official shot on goal of the period. As, you hit two posts and then Matt Chupani's goal does not count. So, first Miami shot on goal of the period with 8:51 remaining has just been all Western Michigan other than, that one chance that they had. But, of course, shots that go off the post do not count.
And again, important to note that Miami has taken 2 penalties in this period as well. As a shot off a rush up the ice and a save made by Miller on Michaels. Second try by Bump from the left point is sent high and wide. Puck ricochets off the corner glass and back out to center. Constantini turns his hips and throws it into the offensive zone on the far side. Up the half wall, and Borozio will direct it along for John Emmons. Trying to push it back to the middle of the ice. Emmons laid a big reverse hit on Alex Bump. Western Michigan team that's typically pretty big and heavy. Miami has gone toe-to-toe at least physically with them tonight, but it's a Western Michigan team also that it feels like has a little more skill this year than they have in years past, and that's made a big difference. Across the ice, Knuble can't knock a puck out of the air. It's Scholand instead holding it on the far half wall of Western's offensive zone. Good job by Vitalins to strip him of the puck along with Emmons, and it's Vitalins who will fork it up the far wall and into the offensive zone. Miami, though, will have to change. And again, this is an issue that Anthony Noreen has talked about as Western Michigan gets it back into the Red Hawk end. You spend so much time defending that anytime you gain the center red, it's just chip and change to get new guys on the ice.
Yeah.
This is sent the length of the ice by Miami, and it will be icing as Sullivan chipped it up the near wall. It'll go down for a whistle with 7:24 to go in the second period. Western Michigan 3 and Miami 1. A couple conference tournaments getting going this weekend in Atlantic Hockey and the Big Ten. Hockey East will start this coming week, and then next weekend is when the NCHC will start their tournament with first-round campus site matchups. And Western Michigan has earned the right to host as Penrose Cup champions for the first time in program history. One of 4 teams in the current 9-team NCHC to have ever won the Penrose Cup as regular season champions in the league, with Denver, North Dakota, and the team they will host next week in 8-seed St. Cloud. Krusberg-Rossin throws it in from the far side, and that got blocked. Now it is Hutchison trying to backhand it into the zone. It was gloved down by Krusberg-Rossin. Up the far wall, Sullivan will tip it into the offensive zone for Miami as the Redhawks will go for a change. Under 7 minutes to go, second period. Western Michigan leads 3-1. Here in the final game of the regular season, Washi hands it off for Hakkarainen. He had Nearing bearing down the far side, but couldn't find him. Now it's Washi in the near corner, wrapping it, waiting, finds Sharp left side. He shoots it off the left goal post. Puck ricochets up to the right point where Robbie Drasner will push it in deep. Now it's Sharp, left point to Drasner on the right side. Into the corner for Washi. Back up Drasner, now Sharp from the left point. His shot got stood up by Caragiello, who's now got space. He'll take a moment to think and now skate it out of the zone himself down the right wing. Shoot it in on goal from just outside the blue line where it's gloved down by Slakinski. He will drop it to his left where Robbie Drasner will leave the puck for Sharp below the goal line. Sharp finds Valente, who puts it further for Slakinski down the left side, dangles through Cox, tried to throw it to the back door. It got hit right back to him. He circles the Miami net, and now the puck is chipped between his legs where he'll have to backhand it at the right point, back in deep. Now we get
late call.
Yeah, late call from the back official as Michael Quinn just got hauled over, and the Redhawks will get a power play as Zach Nearing, who had been out there for a while, is the guilty party on a tripping penalty that'll send Miami to their third power play. 5:43 to go in the second period. We've reached a timeout on the ice. Third power play, really second full-length power play. The last just 8 seconds for the Redhawks trying to get back into this game, trailing it 3-1. Late going second period. We'll be back. You're listening to Miami Hockey on Red Hawk Radio. .543 remaining second period. 2-minute tripping penalty on Zach Nearing sends Miami to their second full-length power play. They scored on their first. Redhawks have officially had 2 prior power plays, although the latest was just 8 seconds following a couple of minor penalties that were taken in quick succession. Redhawks trail 3-1 after Miami had what they thought was the go-ahead goal wiped off the board because the goal horn went off and the lights went down on a shot that hit the post, and then Miami scored about 5 seconds later. Redhawks will try to get their second goal here on this power play, and they control on the faceoff. For the Redhawks, just their 19th power play goal of the season earlier tonight. As Dukovac has it in the near corner of the offensive zone, he is hounded off the puck there by Scholand, and it is cleared down the ice by Western. Approaching 90% on the season in terms of power play percentage entering the weekend as Miami enters the zone again. Puck set dangerously in between the dots for a moment and came back to Michael Quinn at the center point. He wristed one wide. Then behind the net, Western tried to clear, and Robbie Drasner threw it up into the protective netting. Stoppage with 5:07 to go in the second period. Still 3-1 Western with a minute 25 left in the penalty to Zach Nearing, who has scored a goal tonight, has the college hockey equivalent, you could say, of a part of a Gordie Howe hat trick, right? He's got the goal, the assist, and the minor penalty. Can't fight in college.
Yeah, that's a good shot from Michael Quinn on that kind of an again, chaos right in front of the net. Puck bouncing around, and Hampton Slakinski cheating a little bit. Had that shot gone on net, I think it might have been in the back, but nonetheless missed the net just wide, and Miami's still down 2 goals.
Off the face-off, Casper Nasson had a golden chance between the hashes and fanned on the shot. That allows Western to clear. Just over a minute left on the Naring minor penalty. Dukovac will shovel it up the far wall and into the offensive zone. He will win possession below the goal line, chip it up the near wall, and it will settle on the stick of Michael Quinn at the right point. Back into the corner it goes for Dukovac. Puck springs free up the wall where it's kicked back into the pile by Colby Ambrosio. Now up the wall again. RedHawks will prevent Western from clearing. Ambrosio will spin it free. It came up to the right post with some pace, and Michael Quinn couldn't handle it. He'll have to regroup with the RedHawks in the neutral zone. Waldron sends it to the far side. Took a big hit in the process, but Vitalins will take it in the offensive zone for the RedHawks. Quinn center point for Waldron down the right side. Drags and shoots, and that got blocked by Washi, who then tried to chip it to himself for a potential breakaway, but held in the zone by Vitalins. Up the far wall, Michael Quinn keeps it in, but now it's cleared away, and Harkarainen is with Washi on a 2-on-1. Harkarainen threw it to the middle of the ice, but Johnny Waldron got it with the poke check. Little lucky there for Waldron, who was a bit out of position, appeared, as Washi was all alone in front of the Miami net, and Waldron went full on at Harkarainen, hoping to break that one up, and luckily for the RedHawks, he did. Nasson finds Ambrosio. Western Michigan back to full strength now as they kill off the penalty. Puck mishandled a little bit below the goal line by Slakinski, who came out to get it, but Miami was changing. And so the Broncos will still get it out, but upon trying to enter the zone, Constantini fumbled with the puck, and he jumps in offside as he goes across the blue. 3:24 to go in the second period. We get a whistle, 23-7, the shots advantage for Western Michigan, and they lead it 3-1.
And the puck just kind of bouncing around, and Miami on that power play, a couple chances, but nothing really significant. They didn't get really any shots on net or weren't able to set anything up. A couple chances off a face-off, but nothing really there on that, technically their third power play, but second full length of the game.
Bump throws one in front and hit off a RedHawk in front, and Miller jumped on it. Puck was loose when the whistle was blown, as looked like Hutchison pulled that away from Miller, who was jumping on top of it. The official saw Miller jumping on top of the puck and blew the whistle. Hutchison had since grabbed the puck and thrown it down the ice, so it really doesn't anger the Broncos much, as it's an offensive zone face-off either way, but it'll be on the near side of the ice with 3:11 to go in the second period. And Braden Morrison's going to get tossed from the draw on the near side of the ice. So Matt Chapani will come in to take it for the RedHawks. And the faceoff is won by the RedHawks, and Sullivan hustling down the near side, trying to get past Vassinen. Will grab possession, throw one in front from a tough angle, and a stick save is made by Slakinski. Meanwhile, it's come all the way back into Miami's zone, where Bump hits the brakes, tried to thread it across, looking for Michaels on the back door, but he will have to grab it off the near wall after missing that attempt. Below the goal line, Chapani with a steal for the RedHawks, up for Sullivan, and now through the middle of the ice for Morrison. He steps left across the center red and will softly push it into the offensive zone, where Chapani with a steal, and he had two RedHawks in front alone, but it looked like he didn't see him. Tried to play a little 1-on-3 there, and the Broncos take it away. Slakinski can't get it between the legs of Cox. He will send it up the near wall, where Blake Messenberg's on it for Miami with a seam down the right side. Messenberg drives his way to the front. Save made by Slakinski as he came out to the edge of the crease on Messenberg and did not allow him to pull that to his forehand on the left side, making a good save. Miami's picked up a couple shots here late, which they did not have in the first period, or the first part of this period, I should say. 2:21 to go in the second, though it remains a 3-1 Western lead.
Yeah, able to start generating a little bit of offense on the rush, off the faceoffs, but still trying to figure out how to set up in the offensive zone for a consistent period of time. This Western Michigan defense as a 5-man unit, extremely suffocating. And you can just tell, like we mentioned earlier, this period, lots of chip and chase, trying to get on the forecheck and create something out of the chaos of, bouncing pucks behind the goal line and all the stuff in front of the net.
Quinn from the right point, wrists one through traffic, blocked in front, ends up on the stick of Hutchison at the center point. He fans on a shot, and now Hakkarainen in a one-on-one with Quinn, waiting down the far side for reinforcements, throws it to the front. Pad save by Miller as Shingothi was crashing down on the right side but couldn't connect with the puck. Now it's Emmons alone in the right circle. He shoots, and a save made with the chest by Slakinski, who freezes with 1:50 to go in the period.
And again, there's a chance off the rush. Great save by Brett Miller, and immediately the RedHawks turn their way up. Raymond Svitalin's great seam pass to Michael Quinn enters the zone, and Quinn finds Emmons. And that's a great shot. That's the kind of chances you want to keep creating that we just flat out we're not seeing through the first half of this period.
1:50 to go in the period. Western Michigan leads Miami 3-1.
And if you're Raymond Svitalins, probably want to see a better middle lane drive there, get to the front of the net. Not a bad play. Of course, he drew that defender back with him, but want to see him get some traffic in front of Hampton Slakinski next.
Into the offensive zone, Mysonen around the net. Shapani lifting his stick many times and finally gets him off the puck. It is Moulton in the far corner who gets a shoulder from Bump. Puck rimmed around the near side where Miami will grab it. Long pass ahead for Max Dukovac, now speed down the left side. Dukovac spins just inside the offensive blue line, tried to throw it in deep. That attempt got blocked, and Western Michigan will play it with a hand pass in trying to clear after Mysonen sealed the wall. And so the faceoff will come back into Western Michigan's defensive zone with 77 seconds left in the period. Still 3-1 Broncos. Face-off win by Colby Ambrosio, but he wins it right by Spencer Cox, who was at the center point, and Miami will have to regroup. Sullivan chops it into the offensive zone for Miami. Christoph Filion racing in on it for the RedHawks. Filion pressuring the puck, but it does come up the near wall where Henriks can at least get it out to center. Under a minute left in the period as Väisänen heads in front of his own net, and now with speed down the left side. Väisänen will get it forward for Sidlowski. He will turn it into the Miami zone. Dempsey almost gave it away behind his own net, but it is Cox instead that is there to recover it for Miami and knock it off the near glass. It comes all the way out in front of the Western net as nobody could gain a hold on that puck, and Christoph Filion swung and missed. Now Henriks with speed down the left side, gets by Cox, drags it to the backhand and scores. Oh, Henriks just dragged Spencer Cox from the blue line all the way to the net, pulled it to the backhand and tucked it between the legs of Brett Miller. And man, one of many issues for this Miami team this year has been allowing goals inside the final minute, and with 29.5 seconds to go in period two, Miami down 3, it's 4-1.
Yeah, like you said, Spencer Cox just didn't maintain a good enough gap, and Henriks just walked right by him, able to protect that puck really strong. We mentioned, and Ty Henriks, the freshman, 6'5", 195 pounds, so used all of his frame to fend off the Miami defender Cox and work to his advantage. Nothing really Brett Miller could do about that, just a good backhand play.
So time running out here in the second period as the Henriks goal assisted by Sidlowski at 19:31. RedHawks clear out past center where Frankie Carajoella will try to throw one final shot on net for the near boards. It goes wide, and that is a backbreaker for Miami, who goes from feeling like they're in the game a little bit, down 2 goals, to now feeling like they've got a much bigger task ahead of them, giving up the goal with 29 seconds left in the period. It is 4-1 Western Michigan after 2 here from Oxford. Well, Jeff, it wasn't nearly as bad as the second was last night for Miami, but we have seen the same issue crop up for this Miami team time and time again, and that adversity hits and this team just kind of throws their hands up. They thought they had the go-ahead goal. It's taken off the board. They almost score again right after it. They're unable to put the puck in the net. They hit 2 posts within about 3 seconds of game time and then don't get another shot for about 10 minutes. And they surrender 3 goals in the second. Just not a period that you like to see if you're a Miami fan, obviously, and allowing the 3 goals. And that last one is going to make things awfully tough on you in the third.
Yeah, certainly. And I think it's hard for these guys. They want to win. No conference wins this season. It's your last game of the season. You come out, you get a really good first in you. You get some chances. You create some. Of course, the back half take a lot of penalties, and that didn't help in the second as well. You taking penalties that really you shouldn't be taking at all. But then you get through the period and you get to the back half and you start to create some chances for yourself. You get some shots. You get some good chances in front of the net. You obviously get a goal called off, but that's as frustrating as it's going to be. But at the same time, you have to understand that you can play with these guys. You can push through this adversity. You can create those chances. But then Western Michigan gets a couple good shifts in them, and they just control the possession for at least 7 to 8 minutes of that period. And yeah, that last goal, just a really frustrating, like you said, Luke, back-breaking goal. At least it feels back-breaking for Miami in this final game of the regular season. And not what you want to see in the last minute. You mentioned it. Last-minute goals have been a huge issue for this RedHawks team, and it's continued in here tonight.
So we'll take a break. Aiden Sones will take you out of it with the RedHawk Radio intermission for one final time in the 2024-25 season. After 2 here from Cady Arena, it is Western Michigan 4 and Miami 1. You're listening to Miami Hockey on RedHawk Radio.
Welcome back. This is the second intermission report. Again, my name is Aiden Sones. I'm here for the pregame, postgame, and all the intermission game reports. And it is a 4-1 Western Michigan beating the RedHawks at the end of the second. Some key takeaways from this period. At the start of the period, it was a scary one-on-one with 45 seconds in the start of the period. Matteo Castellani versus Brett Miller. Castellani doesn't score this goal, but sadly, that is one of the few key saves that Brett Miller has done this period. Another note: penalties might be getting a little out of hand. Another one by Connor Hutchinson was killed off, but then Ryan Sullivan, his boarding penalty. Although that boarding penalty was immediately offset by Matteo Castellani's penalty, making it a 4-on-4. There was an interesting play of events that happened within the first 5 minutes of this period. As soon as Hutchinson got out of the box, he received the puck, and it was a one-on-one between him and Slakinski. Hutchinson hit the post, but the goal horn went off. Everyone on the rink continued to still play, however. Although, when Chupani scores immediately following after, the goal is called off. Another close call. Colby Ambrosio, the graduate student, was so close to a goal, but it hits the top post right after the face-off after the no-goal call. Another one-on-one. Brett Miller somehow saved during the 4-on-4. But sadly, a few minutes later, too many men in front of the net blocked Miller's view, and the puck trickles in after Grant Sulkinski attempts a very close shot. Another interesting turn of events, another goal for Western Michigan occurred, but it was called off. However, Western Michigan did review it, and then it was overturned again, making it 3-1. And finally, as I said previously, the score is 4-1, as in between the legs, Ty Hendricks scores with 30 seconds left in the period. Digging into the numbers of this period, Western Michigan scores 3 goals compared to Miami's 0. Shots on goal were a little bit closer than what the amount of goals preludes. 10 Western Michigan shots on goal compared to Miami's 5. But total shots, however, even a little bit more even. 13 shots for Miami compared to 19 for Western Michigan. Although it may not seem like it, Brett Miller did make a lot, or I shouldn't say a lot, but a decent amount of more saves than Hampton Sulkinski this period. 7 for Miami compared to Western Michigan's 5. Face-offs were a lot more even as well. Western Michigan with 14 face-offs won compared to Miami's 11. And I know I did say limit the penalties, and they did improve on that. Only 2 penalties for Miami this period compared to 2 for Western Michigan this period. However, again, it doesn't really matter at this point if you're losing 4-1. Again, one of my key takeaways from earlier in this game was to limit the offensive production for Western Michigan in the second frame. I said that Miami always starts off so hot, they always end so hot. It's just that the dog days of the middle of the game, which seems to get them every single time. As Luke was saying earlier, it isn't the 7 goals in 1 period as it is now, but it is still a decent lead that Miami has to crawl their way back up from. Now looking around the league. Air Force at Sacred Heart with a minute left in the second overtime, still tied 2-2. At the end of the second, Canisius at Bentley tied 0-0. Start of the third period, St. Lawrence at Dartmouth. Dartmouth's winning 3-2. At the start of the third period, American Internationals tied with Holy Cross 2-2. Halfway through the second period, number 5 Maine at number 16 Massachusetts. Upset alert with number 16 Massachusetts beating number 5 Maine 2-0. Another upset alert. At the start of the third period, number 15 Penn State at number 11 Michigan. Penn State is winning 4-2. At the end of the second period, number 17 UMass Lowell is tied against unranked New Hampshire 1-1. Army West Point at Niagara. Niagara is winning 2-1 at the start of the third period. Number 6 seed Providence is at Northeastern today. At the end of the second period, Providence is winning 2-1. The Wisconsin Badgers seem to keep doing it again. 2-1 halfway through the third period. At the end of the second period, NCHC opponents Minnesota Duluth Bulldogs is beating St. Cloud State 2-1 at the start of the third period. Boston University, the number 10 team in the nation, is beating Vermont 4-0 at the end of the second period. At the start of the third period, Benji State is tied with Augustana 2-2. At the end of the second period, Michigan Tech against the Bowling Green Falcons. Bowling Green is winning 2-0. Also at the end of the second, Lake Superior State is losing to number 14, Minnesota State 3-2. The last game at the end of the second period, Omaha, the Mavericks, at number 18, North Dakota Fighting Hawks. North Dakota is losing 5-2. Halfway through the third period, Ferris State at St. Thomas. The Tommies are winning 2-0. Towards the end of the second period, Yale is at Cornell. Game is tied 1-1. The Battle of Colorado. They just concluded the first period of that game. Number 7 Denver at number 20 Colorado College tied 0-0. And finally, with 17 minutes left in the second period, Notre Dame is against number 3 Minnesota. It is tied 0-0. That wraps up for the second intermission game report. Again, my name is Aiden Sons. I'll be here for the pregame, intermission, and postgame report here for Red Hawk Radio. Game is currently 4-1 in favor of the Broncos. I'll bring it back to Jeff and Luke right after this.
"20 minutes will go up on the board for the last time here at Cady Arena this season. Western Michigan took it to Miami in the middle 20 as they did last night. And the Broncos, after going in to the first intermission tied at 1, scored 3 in period number 2 to take a 4-1 lead. So as Miami retakes the ice, the RedHawks will have a tough task ahead of them. RedHawks did not start that period well, Jeff, in large part due to the number of penalties that they took. Miami had some carryover power play time going into the second period. They did kill that off, but immediately took another penalty, and the majority of that power play was spent at 4-on-4. However, very little of this game has actually been played at even strength with 8 total penalties, 5 of them taken by Miami, and that's really taken a lot of the energy and air out of this building that the RedHawks had in the early goings.
Yeah, when you look at the shot counter, if you were just to walk in, you'd say that WMU is dominating this game, and I would agree with that, but partially due to the fact that Miami spent, a full 10 minutes on the penalty kill, and that just can't happen against a team like WMU. 4-1 is our score, and of course, if there's one thing we know about this WMU team, they're not going to let off the gas. So Miami in their final 20 minutes, they have no postseason. Why not give it your all? Play for the logo on the front of your jersey. That's all you've got left for the seniors that were honored tonight. One more period of hockey left in their college careers. So you know that these three, especially these three on the ice right now, Captain Ryan Sullivan, Colby Ambrosio, and Christoph Filion, they're going to be playing as hard as they can for the rest of their shifts here as Miami RedHawks.
Western dumps it in after winning the faceoff on net, and Brett Miller, just covers it up. So 7 seconds go by, and the faceoff will come to the near side where Michaels will take it against Ambrosio. For Western Michigan tonight, Slakinski's got 2 goals. Henricks and Naring each adding 1 as well, but 3 of the 4 goals have come from that second line. Miami's done a pretty good job against this line tonight.
Yeah.
Bump, Constantini, and Michaels, the top 3 scoring trio, or the scoring trio, I should say, the line that accounts for the most offense for Western Michigan. Broncos control the face-off, and a big drive from the far side, and Ryan Sullivan ate that one off of Väisänen, who was at the furthest reach of the offensive zone. Do not typically see a shot from there where the boards and the blue line meet, but it was a blast, and Sullivan has headed right down the tunnel after Miami has cleared it out.
That was a blast. Unfortunately, no radar gun here in Goggin Ice Center, but yeah, Ryan Sullivan clearly in some pain, headed right down the tunnel.
Max Dukovac shoulders a defender off, throws one in front of the net where Shapani almost pulled it free for the RedHawks, but it is instead taken away by Valente, who will skate it into the offensive zone, steps around Michael Quinn and shoves one on that is turned away with the stick by Brett Miller. Now a wicked bounce off the stick of Hutchison below the goal line, sends it out in front. Valente with a shot from the left side, and that is brought in by Miller, who will cover it up with 18:54 to go in regulation. 4-1 Western Michigan the score. Face-off coming up on the far side of the ice.
Yeah, now things will get interesting. We're going to keep watching the bench, see if Ryan Sullivan comes back out. It looked like he was holding his wrist as he walked down the tunnel, but now this is where coaching comes into play. You're down a forward, and it's one of your best. It's your first line center tonight with Colby Ambrosio and Christoph Filion. We'll see who's taking the double shift here.
Rister from the left point, and a save was made off of Hakkarainen by Miller, who then got collided with out in front. Puck below the goal line was thrown in front by Shingothi, and that didn't find anybody and ended up out of the zone. RedHawks all season long have dressed their extra skater, which is given to you in college hockey, as a defenseman rather than a forward, as the puck comes to the back door, and Shingothi missed a point-blank chance, couldn't get it on net. Miller without a stick. Sharp for the left point, throws it intentionally wide, trying to get a bounce out in front. Simonovic will force it back against the end wall, where Shingothi will get it back to the left point. Washi and Cox fighting in front. Meanwhile, a shot from the left side by Hakkarainen gets blocked before it reaches the net, and Miami can push it to center ice, and Miller can go get a stick back. Western gets it back into the offensive end, but John Emmons will put it back near the red line area. Casper Nasson recovers possession for Miami and feeds Dylan Moulton on the near side. He gets across the red and dumps it in. Miami trying to establish some real zone time for the first time in this period. Just over 2 minutes gone by in it. Down 3 goals. Knubel on the far wing. Sent it up the wall looking for Henricks, but couldn't find him. Henricks a goal scorer already in this game, but Miami will hold the zone right now as Moulton will slide it along the wall. Morrison directs it further in deep for Cardriello with speed. Around to the far point, waiting. Now he'll wrist one on. That got blocked in front of him, and it will be tipped on the second try from Cardriello by Henricks out of the zone.
That's just not the shot you want from Frankie Cardriello. Not a bad idea per se, but you got two defenders on you and your defenseman's wide open, and I'm not exactly sure why that was icing, as Christoph Filion looked ahead of, I believe it was Brian Kramer.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah, the official blew it dead. But yeah, Frankie Cardriello, not a bad idea, but had a defenseman open because he drew his defender and just decided to throw it into shin pads. And I mean, you and I both know, Luke, how frustrating that is for Anthony Noreen, as he has said multiple times throughout this year that shooting it into shin pads doesn't help anybody except the other team.
Should be noted that during that last whistle, Ryan Sullivan did come back out onto the bench, so he's sitting in the center of the bench right now for Miami after blocking that shot. But yeah, like you said, it just looked like Cardriello didn't exactly know what he wanted to do with the puck, and that kind of doomed the RedHawks' possession. Puck fluttered in near the net for a moment before it was directed away by Western Michigan. Now Bump racing it down as the Broncos clear. Short of icing, Michael Quinn will get to it first for the RedHawks. And up the near wall, Emmons will thread it onto the center dot.
And it's Emmons
loose
taking
puck
this
right
shift
to
in center.
Emmons that will tip it to the far side. Yeah, Emmons taking Sullivan's shift, as you mentioned, as the RedHawks have it in their own defensive zone. Michael Quinn shoots it off the near side glass. Väisänen cross ice. Now Valente center point, back down low, throwing it out in front. It was on the backside. Slakinski looking for it on the back door on hat trick watch, and he couldn't get to it. Shot slid through on the far side by Sam Scholand, and that goes wide. Väisänen skating it down the center will feed a pass left, and Scholand will wire it the rest of the way in. Mehring gives it a blast, and that got deflected up into the glass behind the Miami goal cage by Dempsey. Now the RedHawks turn it over. Mehring throws it out in front, a whack at it, but a fanned attempt by Washi after a costly turnover there by Spencer Cox. Again, really not under any pressure to give the puck away there. Miami gets it into the offensive zone now, and Johnny Waldron will dump it in deep. Sets up the near glass. Down the ice by Drasner. It'll come down on net. Brett Miller comes to the edge of his crease to cover it up with 15:20 to go in the third period. Still 4-1 Broncos, looking to bleed the rest of the time out here on the road. Pat Ferschweiler doesn't typically show much emotion, but you can see that he's been pretty happy with his team's start to the third period, clapping his hands over on the Western Michigan bench.
Yeah, and we talked about it in that second period, but Miami just really having trouble generating in the offensive zone, creating possession. Feels like this Western Michigan team, not only do they have the depth offensively, but their defense, the way they play in the defensive zone is just absolutely suffocating Miami, trying to find ways around it, but not finding any success with that yet.
Knubel tried to throw it through the middle for Henricks, but that didn't find him. It's knocked down with a high stick on the clearing attempt by Western Michigan's Garrett Sadlowski, and that will back the faceoff all the way up into the Broncos zone end. 15:08 to go in the third period. Western still leads it by 3. Again, Broncos will host next week in a best-of-3 series starting next Friday. They'll have St. Cloud at Lawson Ice Arena. And gotta just say, while I have the chance, they announced a new arena plans in Kalamazoo that's gonna move Western Michigan hockey away from the historic Lawson Ice Arena. Got the chance to go to a Miami Western Michigan series there a number of years ago. As the Broncos cleared out to center. And while it is far from the nicest rink you will ever find, it is certainly bottoms in the league. In that category, it might be the best.
Yeah, the atmosphere is just unbelievable.
It is, yeah, truly an incredible rink, as a tip shot through the center of the ice by Frankie Carajoello finds its way in, and Slakinski makes the save. So yeah, if you've got a chance over the next couple years, in the final few years of Lawson before Western hockey will move across town to the new downtown arena, by all means you should go. It is loud in there. And it's a really, really fun place and a really historic place to watch a hockey game. They've got a really cool concourse that's dedicated to a lot of the NHL alumni that have come through. I believe they have some Olympic figure skaters that have trained there as well, if I'm not mistaken. Keith Jones is among one of the most famous Western Michigan NHL alumni. Longtime NHL analyst and NHL player, of course.
Of course, yes.
Broncos can't hold the offensive zone. It is Vicenen that comes out on it. And so the RedHawks will take it back in as Shapani tried to throw it up top for Johnny Waldron. He had his stick lifted, and it came back outside. Mentioning of things that will be going away in the recent future as well. Talking about the landscape of college hockey as a pass through the middle of the ice is broken up by the Broncos, and it'll be hand pass down the ice where Miami will go back and get it. One last ride for American International here over the coming weeks.
Yep.
And head coach Eric Lang, who has turned that program into a real consistent winner in Atlantic hockey, and of course, historically upset St. Cloud as a 4 seed in the NCAA tournament a few years ago, as I believe the NCHC champion that year. As the puck skitters in on net, and Brett Miller covers it up. And that program and that school announced their intentions to drop the program with the rest of its athletics, where the rest of the athletics are at, I should say, down to the Division II level, which Division II hockey competes at the Division III level and then is ineligible for the NCAA tournament. But no more D1 hockey at American International, which is a big shame. And Brian Kramer transferred over from that program from this Western Michigan side. Eric Lang, their head coach, had done such a good job, and he was actually a guy that was a favorite to get this Miami job when it opened this past offseason. A lot of people thought he was going to be the guy, and to Lang's credit, I mean, he had been AIC through and through. He had been in with that program for a long time. I believe he played there as well, and he stuck it out with them. And even when the program announced its intentions to drop from Division I, he said he was riding it out with them, and he was going to stick out the season as their head coach. So as the seasons get wrapped up, college hockey is going to look a lot different next year as the puck rolls down the ice, and it will be icing with 13:01 to go in the third period. 4-1 Western Michigan leads Miami. NCHC will look a little different in the near future with the joining of St. Thomas as well, who's also building their own new arena. So that'll give the league an extra footprint in the state of Minnesota, the state of hockey, which if you're a hockey fan, you've probably seen the pictures circulating of what the X looked like this past week during the high school hockey tournament.
Of course,
it was
how could you not?
Completely full.
It'll be interesting to see how postseason works now. We'll be back to 10 or an even number of teams in the NCHC, as this year was a little bit weird with only 9.
And there was actually, the initial plan was to have Miami play in the team that would end up being Miami, I should say, as the 9 seed play in the postseason as puck is shoveled into the offensive zone by Naring. There was actually a little bit of a lack of clarity for a long time until, of course, Mr. NCHC hockey and really Mr. College hockey, Brad Elliott Schlossman, cleared the air for everybody that it was just going to be an 8-team tournament, because originally it had been
a play-in game.
Yeah, decided that the 8 and 9 seeds would play each other in a single knockout game at the site of the 1 seed a few days prior to the weekend opening up, and basically the winner of that game would then go on to play the normal best-of-3 series as the pseudo 8 seed. But that was altered at some point in the process.
It just kind of
came out of nowhere.
It
It was difficult to tell exactly when that happened, because we went into this season with the intention that everybody was going to play in the tournament, and then the news kind of sprung on us, especially once we got to the point where we realized that Miami was going to be that 9th team, that it was not going to happen. And so at some point the format changed, and now it'll just be St. Cloud making it as the final team, and the RedHawks will be the odd ones out. And they will head to Western Michigan. And of course you want to play in the postseason, but that is going to allow this coaching staff to really shift their focuses a week earlier.
I think it's also unfortunate just in terms of how Miami competed with St. Cloud in their series early this year. First NCHC series of the year, and really good
drive in on net there, and a hard collision on Brett Miller as he made a save, and he got run over.
Yeah, we got, I mean, a good game. I mean, Miami earned their first and only point for a while in the NCHC play against St. Cloud. Lost in overtime, of course, but yeah, it'll be interesting to see. But like you said, Luke, this coaching staff is going to focus on the things they need to focus on, getting this program continuing in the right direction and keeping that culture building and, you know, acquiring so many new different recruits. You know, their recruiting class already for next year in around the 15 to 16 person range, and
yep, 16.
That's almost unheard of for college hockey. Of course, there's also the transfer portal. There's also, you know, other things where this Miami coaching staff is going to put their attention toward after this game ends and after they're able to kind of digest what happened this season.
Yeah, 16 signees that will all be academic freshmen now in the world of hockey, and especially now with the new rules surrounding players who have spent time in the Canadian Hockey League. Does freshman mean much?
Yes.
Not really.
I don't know.
I mean, RedHawks are going to welcome in a couple of signees from the CHL that are going to be 21-year-old freshmen, and that is kind of the joke around hockey players that everybody has, right? But I think you're going to see that as the COVID 5th year, 6th year, 7th year players tend to get phased out of college sports, at least from a hockey standpoint, you're going to see even older freshmen coming in as age-outs from the CHL, and Miami's got a couple of them. So if your question is 16 signees and 16 freshmen, how the heck is that type of team going to compete in college hockey? The RedHawks have some guys that have played for a number of years at a high level, and so although the classification in the eyes of the NCAA will be freshmen, they have played some high-level hockey, and they've got some years of experience under their belt.
But as far as development goes as well, you know, these guys, like you mentioned, you know, it's not 18-year-olds that are coming in and playing. It's 20-year-olds, 21-year-olds, and, you know, you're going to get some transfers in that are that kind of age range too. So, yes, while they are qualified as freshmen, academically speaking, it's different in terms of player development and how they've grown across, you know, especially CHL guys. They're playing players who are going to consistently go into the NHL, and, you know, there's a couple names that are going to be interesting to watch next year for this Miami team that have spent a lot of time in the CHL and played well in the CHL as well. So, again, it's just going to be an interesting kind of few months as we get through this last game and through the off season and see which guys kind of stick around, who ends up joining the RedHawks as transfers, and how this roster ends up being constructed for next season.
Yeah, it's going to certainly look different.
A lot different.
Yeah, you can do the math yourself. 8 seniors, 16 signees. There are going to be some players probably that will not be with this program next season and will hit the portal, as is the case with basically every team in the country. And also, from a Miami standpoint, you talk about 16 signees for this team as Western's got it in the offensive zone. That doesn't include who they might want to target incoming out of the transfer portal.
Yes.
So it's kind of a good problem to have in that you've got a lot of talent signed and you don't have a ton of spots. So we'll see. It'll certainly be interesting to see how this coaching staff navigates the portal in the coming months. Miami lifts it back out to center, and it is grabbed and skated back by Brian Kramer. On the other side for this Western Michigan team, they've got their eyes on a Frozen Four run and a potential run maybe to a national championship. Western Michigan, of course, a very proud program, but a program that really has had the Frozen Four elude them in all the recent success that they've had. They've been a top 10 team now for a number of years, pretty consistently under Pat Ferschweiler, but have not been able to win some games in the NCAA tournament to get to the semifinals. And this year, as the 4th best team in the country, projected to do it, the one team really in non-conference play that they played, in which they might see in the NCAA tournament in a Frozen Four type of game. They actually traveled to play Boston College in a single game and fell to the, at the time, second-ranked Eagles 4-2 on the road early on in the season.
And it's always interesting looking at how this Western Michigan team matches up against teams like Boston College, Boston University, Denver, North Dakota, kind of all of those schools. Because like we mentioned before, this Western Michigan team doesn't have as many draft picks. They don't have a Ryan Leonard. They don't have, you know, those kind of star players. But with the players that they do have, Alex Bump, Matteo Costantini, these guys, all drafted, but they're not, they play a system. The system works. They play really strong defense. Their goaltending is fantastic. And so it's a different kind of look at how you can be successful in college hockey. And, it's always interesting to see how those matchups work out throughout, non-conference games or through the NCAA tournament in the postseason.
And it's interesting. I think the RedHawks are going to get a steal here. Emmons up ahead had it poked away from him as he went to the net front. There's kind of some social media stuff that has, I think, increased perception around college hockey as a shot in from the left wing by Owen Michaels and a save made by Brett Miller. But I think what you've seen around this increased social media attention and whatever have you is that those big brands of college hockey and the teams that, for lack of a better word, play the attractive brand of hockey, that frat boy hockey that everybody kind of knows is the stereotypical high-level game at the college level, the Denvers, the North Dakotas, the BCs, the BUs of the world. Those are the teams that the casual college hockey fan, I think, just dominate when it comes to the national scene. And when you look at some other teams that have put themselves into the mix, Quinnipiac is probably the most recent one, winning a national title with, I believe, just one drafted player on their roster at the time.
Colin Graff, the only guy that I really remember currently playing for the San Jose Sharks right now. But not drafted. He was signed as a free agent. He's been excellent in the NHL. But kind of those guys, like creating a culture where you don't need the most draft picks to win a championship. It's all about team chemistry, how you play against certain teams. And this Western Michigan team, maybe it's early, but we've seen throughout this regular season that they could probably live up to that hype considering the kind of talent that they have in their top six, the kind of depth that they have throughout their lineup, their defense. Only one drafted player in their defense tonight, but really you wouldn't think so considering how much of the offense has come from their defense and in terms of just rush offense and offensive zone possession and power play quarterbacking. It's a defense group that might be underrated, but that's...
Connor Hutchison just scored on the RedHawks off the faceoff. It got tipped in as he was trying to make a D-to-D pass right between the legs of Brett Miller, and that's kind of how the night has gone for Miami. It looks like it'll be Cam Knuble that'll get credit for the goal. But the RedHawks just won a neutral zone faceoff. Hutchison tried to throw a D-to-D pass from the near side to the far side. Knuble got a stick in the way, and it went from between the hashes just right down the middle of the ice and between the legs of Brett Miller in it to the back of the net. And so that'll make it 5-1 Western with 7:46 left in the third, and Miami's just going to ice it off the faceoff, and really feels like the focus is starting to wane a little bit for the RedHawks here on the ice as they just win a center ice faceoff, and Zane Dempsey on the near side of the ice just threw that down for icing. So the faceoff will go to the far side. 7:44 to go in the third period. Western Michigan leads it 5-1. And the Broncos control the faceoff in the offensive zone, thrown out in front by Brian Kramer, and that got sent back where it came from behind the net. Miami will now take it, and Max Dukovac sends Shingothi sliding away as Dukovac will skate it down the far side. Up the far wing, it is thrown in front by Johnny Waldron and tipped by Matt Chapani wide left of the net. 7:15 to go in the third period. Western Michigan leads at 5-1. Latest goal unassisted by Cam Knuble at 12:10. Waldron walking in, threw one up top, and Chapani scores. Waldron just drove into the corner and with one hand slung it in front. And Chapani bangs it between the legs of Slakinski for the RedHawks' second goal of the game. 7:04 to go in the third period. Would have liked to have that goal probably a couple minutes earlier, but regardless, it's a 3-goal hockey game again, now 5-2.
Yeah, and great play from Johnny Waldron, and that's about as good as you can get. Really nice move around Shingothi, and Matt Chupani had a good chance on a tip earlier in that shift and gets rewarded with a goal here on senior night.
So Shipani from Waldron and Dempsey. 2 seniors and a junior combining for the goal effort for Miami. And it is 5-2 with 6:37 left in the third. Mysonen hustling it across for the Broncos.
And Waldron with his 20th point of the season as well, so him and Ambrosio both crossing that plateau this season in the final game. It's always good to see.
Certainly is. Messenberg in the near corner will flip it off the glass and down the ice. Short of icing. So Western Michigan will dump it back Miami's way in it to the RedHawks end. Should be noted for this Miami team as the RedHawks take it into the offensive zone. It is Casper Nasson spinning it around. He will wrap it in deep in the offensive zone where John Emmons playing with the puck and working it up the wall to the right side. Each of the transfers that Anthony Noreen brought in are now graduating, so none of the transfers will be back for this team. They are a group that makes up about half of Miami's graduating class from this year. Poked ahead. Big hit there on Slakinski. But he still keeps possession for Western Michigan and got a tip shot in front. Again, looking for that hat trick as the puck skitters wide. Question also will open up for Miami next year about what does the goaltending situation look like, because the RedHawks were one of just a few teams around the country that actually used all 3 of their goalies on the roster a relatively even amount. This Western Michigan team is sort of old school in the Pat Ferschweiler philosophy, which may come from Jeff Blashill, which is pretty similar to how Miami really ran things in the heyday of this program when Blashill was on staff with Rico Blasi back in the day, and that they rotate their goalies. And so Rowe and Slakinski have both played for the Broncos, but Kirk Larson, the third string, has not appeared in a game this year. A lot of teams, though, going with just one goaltender for the majority of the season. As Caragiello on the far side wrists one in, and that gets blocked by Kruzberg-Rosin.
So after this game, it'll be an even split for goaltenders, for both goaltenders Slakinski and Rowe. 17 games played each.
And when Miami was making Frozen Fours, you think back to some of their elite goaltending tandems. That was how things were run. Cody Reichert and Connor Knapp were both there for the 2 years of the RedHawks in Frozen Fours. Ryan McKay and Jay Williams, another tandem. And then we really saw the one goalie system start to take hold a little bit when Ryan Larkin took over the Miami net. And since then, it's been kind of a carousel for the RedHawks, just depending on transfers in and out and who's been on the roster. Thrown out in front by Western Michigan. Miller gets the paddle on it off a pass from the far corner, and he will cover it up as we reach the final timeout on the ice. We'll stay here for it with 3:23 to go in the third period. But yeah, I mean, it's a situation if you're Miami in which you might, if you're Anthony Noreen, have an opportunity, if you so choose, to chase a goaltender in the transfer portal and say, hey, listen, we've got a potential #1 job available. That was something that Miami didn't really feel like they had in the offseason, and it's interesting because Brett Miller was, a second, third string guy for pretty much his entire time at RPI, was brought in seemingly to play that similar type of role, but then just looking for something that worked. Anthony Noreen ended up putting him in net a few times, and Miller's had some decent games this year, and what that's resulted in is kind of a 3-way sharing between the goaltending duties this season. Of course, Dahlmeyer and Braveris, who are on the bench tonight for the senior night in Brett Miller, will both have eligibility remaining. Braveris will be a junior next year. Dahlmeyer just a sophomore. But again, Anthony Noreen said he was waiting for somebody to really go in there and take the net, and with nobody really having done that for the RedHawks, you wonder, is it going to be one of those guys? Is it going to be somebody else in goal for Miami next year? Is it going to involve potentially a combination of multiple things?
And it's worth mentioning that They did get a signing from a goaltender, a Russian from the Muskegon Lumberjacks, Shika Gadjev, and if there's only one goaltender that leaves and it's Brett Miller, I'm sure Gadjev will come in. He is supposed to take a spot next season, but he's been solid for the Lumberjacks this year. 26 games played, 2.62 goals against average, and a .913 save percentage. So, that's an option for Anthony Noreen next season, as the 20-year-old goaltender is going to come in and try and claim a spot.
And if you have not followed recruiting and just followed results, you might be wondering why some people around the program are so positive all the time.
Yeah.
And it's actually because if you pay attention to what's going on right now with what the staff is doing behind the scenes from a recruiting standpoint, it is thoroughly impressive.
Yeah.
Shot in from the far side by Scholand, and a save made by Braveris. Miami's incoming recruiting classes, this over the next couple of classes, just listing off some off the top of my head, include a potential first-round pick.
Yep.
The USHL's leading scorer for the majority of the season. I mean, you've got two guys that we mentioned coming in from the CHL. Kokadelic is a point-a-game guy in the CHL that you're bringing in, a really elite offensive talent for next season. So, again, if you have not paid attention to recruiting, head on over to Elite Prospects. Do yourself a favor and just look at that drop-down menu for next year and take a look at the projected roster with the guys coming in. And there are some players that have done really impressive things at a variety of junior levels for Anthony Noreen. And you kind of figured that was going to be the case coming in from the USHL, that he was going to dominate in a place that was really his area. He knows the USHL as well as anybody, having coached for two different teams in that league and also been the GM, most recently with the Tri-City Storm and previously in the Buckeye State up in the northeast part of Ohio with the Youngstown Phantoms.
And I think it's worth mentioning that, we've talked with Coach Noreen about this kind of stuff, and he has said that he watched these teams in the NCHC, and the most successful teams in college hockey, they build out of the USHL. So while the CHL is another option, obviously we've seen them use it a couple of times, and they probably will more in the future, but they've used the USHL more than they have the CHL, and Anthony Noreen has said multiple times that that's going to be where they really think that they're going to find the talent to help bring this program back up. And when you look at what they're doing, it's obvious that they have a plan and that they want to build a certain kind of team. Like you mentioned, some of the recruits that they have, and Ilya Morozov, the potential first-round pick, and Artemi Nizimayev, a guy who is scoring 30-plus goals and over a point per game this season with Tri-City. It's going to be interesting to see how they adapt to the college game, but like we've mentioned, this year is, while the results are what everybody wants to see, it's a transition year. You're going to have the goals that you want to accomplish, and Anthony Noreen has said this so many times since he's taken over the Miami bench. It's all about culture. It's all about changing the culture first, because it doesn't matter if you bring in the most talented players on the planet. If the culture's not correct, then it's not gonna be a successful venture.
And Anthony Noreen has not wavered a single time on that belief. And it's made for some really interesting moments this year, Jeff, because you and I, we go down post-game, and there have been some ugly, ugly losses that this team has taken this year. And not to say that Anthony Noreen has been sunshine and rainbows and all positive about it.
No.
However, he doesn't really seem too phased. It doesn't seem like he's coaching a hopeless hockey club by any means, and he has acknowledged that there have been issues that this team has worked to fix all season, and some of them have lingered here through the end of the year, but there was never a point where it just felt like there was nothing he could do.
And he said, in literally his first press conference as the head coach of this Miami team, he said that the grind is what is his favorite part of rebuilding programs. He's done it throughout his entire coaching career, and he's been successful at it everywhere that he's been. And he said that the grind is what matters. It starts with building a culture, having guys be great teammates, not good teammates, great teammates, and guys who are willing to put in the work through adversity, be disciplined hockey players, be disciplined on the ice, be disciplined off the ice, understand the systems, commit to a certain practice, and as important as that is, everyone's going to care about the results. Everybody's going to see a 0 in the NCHC win column and only 3 wins this season and be upset, and it's understandable. You want this program, everybody wants this program to get back to where it was, but it starts by building a culture that, frankly, has not been nearly what it used to be, and I think every player on this Miami roster would understand that, and every person that is sitting in the stands today understands that as well. So it starts with the off-ice stuff, creating a team culture, and you bring in the right players, you bring in the guys with the right attitude, and you're going to be able to build this Miami program back up.
25 seconds remaining in this one as Western Michigan gets it into the offensive zone. RedHawks will pull it out, and it is Ambrosio skating it down the left side. Interested to see what some of these guys will do even in the coming days and weeks, as in hockey they don't waste much time getting players started with their pro careers when their collegiate career comes to an end. But Miami's season will come to an end tonight as the time runs out. And Western Michigan will complete the sweep, and the Penrose Cup champion Broncos will head into the NCHC tournament 26-7-1 overall and an impressive 19-4-1 in the conference for Miami. The NCHC season ends winless. RedHawks go 3-28-3 and 0-23-1 in the NCHC in year 1 under Anthony Noreen. But as we've mentioned, there are some brighter days ahead for this team. And despite some of these struggles this year, it has been a ton of fun doing these games, and we will sincerely look forward to early October coming up next season. So 5-2 the final score as Western Michigan takes down Miami to wrap up the season. And the RedHawks season will come to a close here tonight. We do owe some huge thank yous, by the way, to the first off superhero that makes Miami hockey work behind the scenes, Tim Carey,
Of course.
who does so much for us and everything that we need here from a student radio standpoint. The SID for Miami hockey that has done a fantastic job in his last few years with the program after joining on with Miami Athletics after COVID. Tim had never been an SID before, and he has done a phenomenal job with everything surrounding this Miami hockey team, and can't wait to see Tim again. I'll see him in Cleveland next week, and can't wait to see him again here at Cady Arena coming up in early October. Jeff, this is year 2 with you and I together doing these games. Always a pleasure, sir.
Absolutely.
And we're not going anywhere.
No,
Can't get rid of us yet. We got one more season of Miami hockey coming up for us, but always appreciate the chance to do these games with you and get to talk Miami hockey. Of course, you know this is a program that I'm very passionate about and have been for my entire life pretty much. But have a ton of fun doing these games, and already can't wait for a few months to get things going in October again.
Yeah.
So that will wrap things up for us here this season as Miami's year comes to a close tonight with a 5-2 loss against Western Michigan. As for Red Hawk Radio, we've got plenty more coming up for you in the spring and wrapping up the winter seasons, starting with baseball tomorrow. 1 o'clock first pitch with Andrew Relvis as the baseball team goes for the sweep across town over the Toledo Rockets. And coming up this week, stay tuned to our social media channels for Miami basketball, as we will have comprehensive coverage and live broadcasts for you up at Rocket Arena in Cleveland with the Miami basketball teams, both men's and women's, heading to the MAC tournament. Hope you'll tune in then, and again, hope you'll tune in next October for more Miami hockey. Gotta love it. Tonight, the RedHawks season ends at the hands of Western Michigan, and the RedHawks turn the page to 2025-26 coming up in about 6 months' time. It'll be here before you know it. So for Jeff Middleton, Luke West-Poley saying so long. Thanks for tuning in tonight and all season long to Miami hockey here on Red Hawk Radio. We'll be back with you next season for plenty more. We'll take a break, and when we come back, Aiden Sones will have your Red Hawk Radio postgame. Thanks for tuning in to this presentation of Miami hockey on Red Hawk Radio.
with that, ladies and gentlemen, Miami RedHawks hockey has officially ended for the 2024-2025 season. Now, looking back at this last period, looking at the stats, both Western Michigan and Miami both score 1 goal apiece, with shots on goal being in Western Michigan's favor, 8-3. Total shots, on the other hand, is 21-7 in favor of Western Michigan, while saves are in favor of Miami, 7-2. Western Michigan also won the face-off category this period as well, winning 14 face-offs compared to Miami's 6. Now, some game notes for this last period. It is a little sad to say, and a little ironic, based on Miami's season, that Connor Hutchinson scored his own goal. That's right, he passed it across the net to a player on the left side of the ice, but sadly, it hit Brett Miller, and it trickled into the back of the net. On the other hand, though, Matt Jupani scored the last goal of the game and the last goal of the season, right in front of the net, with cutting the deficit for Western Michigan 5-2. And finally, my favorite note of probably today's game, our captain, Ryan Sullivan, he took a slap shot at least 80 miles per hour right to the midsection, and he took a long time to get up and went all the way back past the bench, went inside to get checked on medically. But being the captain, of course, he had to toughen up, get back to the bench, and then 5 minutes later he was playing the rest of the game. That's what a true captain is all about, and that is my main takeaway from today's game. Going to the rest of the league of NCAA college hockey. With 6 minutes left of the third, the number 5 team Maine at number 16 Massachusetts tied 2-2. The Wisconsin Badgers at number 9 Ohio State. Ohio State managed to come back. With 12 minutes left in the third, they are winning 3-2. Yale at Cornell. Cornell is winning 2-1 with 10 minutes left in the third. The battle for Colorado. Number 7 Denver at number 20 Colorado College. Number 7 Denver is winning 2-1. Notre Dame at number 3 Minnesota with 13 minutes left in the third period. Minnesota is winning 2-1. And finally, our final scores of the night. Finally, the Air Force Sacred Heart game ended in the second overtime with Air Force winning 3-2. Canisius at Bentley. Bentley wins 2-0. St. Lawrence at Dartmouth. Dartmouth putting on a show 6-2. American International at Holy Cross. Holy Cross winning 3-2. Number 15 Penn State at number 11 Michigan. The 15 seed Penn State comes out on top, winning 5-2. Number 17 UMass Lowell at New Hampshire. New Hampshire winning 4-2. Army West Point at Niagara. Niagara's won 4-3. Number 6 Providence at Northeastern. Providence winning 3-2, or won 3-2. Minnesota Duluth, the Bulldogs at St. Cloud State. The Bulldogs won 3-2. Number 10 Boston University at Vermont, destroying Vermont 6-1. Bemidji State at Augustana, South Dakota. Final 4-3 in Bemidji's favor. Michigan Tech at Bowling Green Falcons. Bowling Green winning 4-0. Lake Superior State at number 14 Minnesota State. Minnesota State out on top 3-2. Omaha, the Mavericks at number 18 North Dakota. The Omaha Mavericks pull up the upset 7-3. And finally, Ferris State, first matchup against the RedHawks this season. loses to St. Thomas in Minnesota 4-1. That wraps up here for the post-game report and the final post-game report of the 2024-2025 season. Again, I'm Aiden Sones. It has been a pleasure doing the pre-game, intermission, post-game report for you guys this season. Next season is just around the corner, with October being the first game Miami plays up again. And from the bottom of my heart, Luke's heart, and Jeff's heart, thank you for watching, or listening rather, this season. Let's go Red Hawks.